Hi everyone, I'm James Portnow from Extra Credits. I'm here hanging out with everybody at Firefall Fest today because the folks here at Red 5 have said I could come and ask any questions I want. So this is going to be totally unscripted and no holds. I just want to let you guys all know because nobody's ever said that to me before. Nobody's ever brought me onto something and said, ask us whatever you want, all questions are fair. So with that, you guys want to introduce yourselves and then let's go to it.
Hi, I'm Scott Youngblood. I'm the lead designer here on Firefall.
My name is Adam McMahon. I am the lead artist here at Firefall.
All right, so for you guys to start out with, the big question to me with Firefall is, why do I want an MMO FPS? I'm an MMO player. I like the fact that it's casual. I like the fact that I can sit back and relax and just play my game. I am an FPS player, and I like the fast-paced in-and-out gameplay. Why would I want to slow that down with quests, with grinding, with managing equipment?
Well, the thing is, you have a choice, right? We offer both of those options in Firefall, and some people will choose one, some people will choose the other, some people will be a mix. And the idea is that you can play Firefall any way that you choose, right? You can level up through PvE, you can level up through PvP. The PvE offers you a better experience in terms of pacing, controlling, the fun that you're having about how you want to play the game. Whereas if you really need to get in and shoot some smack-talking guy right in the face, go to PvP and do that. It's really about play the game the way that you want to play it.
I guess I'm wondering if this is something different than an FPS or an MMO. Because let's say I'm a Call of Duty player. Sell me on why I should play Firefall. What's there for me?
Why would you play Firefall if you're a Call of Duty player?
Yeah.
Because it offers more game there, right? Call of Duty, for the single player experience, is fun to go through those missions. The multiplayer experience is fun in short bursts for me. But for me, it's like I want to have a more rounded experience that I can share with my friends and have a good time online and pwn noobs.
All right. We're going to dig further into that one. But let's take the flip side and say I'm a WoW player. Why would I want to play Firefall?
Because you want to play a game that's fun.
Wow. Oh, I can't really argue with that one. All right.
Oh, man.
Fascinating. So I would certainly argue that in some ways, as weird as it sounds, you're not actually playing WoW for fun, that you want to play WoW for abnegation, for this ability to sort of check out from the world and do something that's just semi-passive for a while, right? And the one thing Firefall is certainly not is passive. And that's why I was asking that question, because to me, it's a very different experience to me than either an FPS or an MMO, an MMORPG in the standard sense. But let's look at some of the specific decisions that we've seen you guys go into recently. There's been a major overhaul in the last several months, and I think we'll be talking about this a lot through both these sections we're doing today. But tell me about getting rid of XP. I mean, leveling in this traditional sense. We've gone to something that looks a lot more like EVE Online's leveling tree, but without their time system.
Well, I think we should start first by asking, why did we put leveling in? Right. We initially put leveling in is because we wanted players to have a meaningful experience while they were playing the game, have something to work towards, give yourself those unlocks, and something that it's a game with a purpose, right? A lot of the shooters out there, it's like there's not a lot for you to do other than just shooting guys in the face. There might be a little bit of progression, but we wanted to make sure that our progression felt really kind of integrated with an experience and gave you something tangible to chase after. I'm going to play that one next map so I can get that unlock for the new plasma cannon, and then I can use my resources to craft a much better one. That's motivation for you to keep playing the game because you have secondary things that you get to do by participating.
Why is that better than me just getting the plasma cannon?
It's not as much fun, in my opinion. If you have to work towards something a little bit, then your take on how useful that piece of equipment is to you is more important, right? Because you did have to extend a little bit of effort rather than someone just handing it to you.
Interesting. So your argument is work is more fun.
It is.
I'm actually willing to accept that as valid, but it's an interesting argument for why I would care to not begin the game with my plasma rifle. Okay, let's go on to one of the major features of Firefall, this jetpack, right? I keep seeing in the beta people clearly exploiting, people jumping around, landing on places that your enemies can't really get to.
Not anymore.
And I don't know. I was on last night in my hotel room.
No, not in the beta. Or it's not in the beta yet, but we do have plans coming for all you thumper cheesers out there. Yeah,
right.
It's happening.
Exactly. So tell me how you're gonna fix that, because to me, as a designer, one of the hardest problems here was you take an MMO where people are naturally inclined, because you've incentivized them, because you do have to grind, you do have to work. You've incentivized them to find ways to be more efficient, right? To exploit the system. On top of that, you have this massive amount of options in terms of traversal. WoW is basically a 2D map. You're much closer to a real 3D environment. Mm-hmm. And then you add to that range combat, and now you have so many things you have to adjust for. So how are you guys preventing this sort of exploiting throughout the game? Because I'm still definitely seeing it in the beta.
Yeah, so some of our recent changes we haven't rolled out to the beta yet. We're still working on our current beta release, which will have some fixes for the exploitation issues, some of the exploitation issues. One of the biggest ones is people cheesing the AI pathing system. You know, if you put your thumper on top of this, all the bugs collect at the bottom and allow you to easily shoot them and clean them up. No more. Those days of easy thumping are gone. Now the creatures have a new ability, which is they can go up vertical surfaces. The smaller the creature, the bigger the surfaces they can go up. So those previously safe thumping spots, you're going to have to work if you want to use those same spots from this point forward. So, you know, the idea, it was never really the idea that you should be able to thump with immunity. You know, we wanted there to be challenge and threat to the thumper. It's this back and forth between shooting the creatures, defending the thumper, and then ultimately trying to send it back and get those resources. You know, but what we found is that, you know, players were really just doing it for EXP and then cheesing spots, you know, over and over and over again. You know, the bugs going up the walls is just one of the solutions. Apparently the Chosen, now they want more than just your jawbones. They like your thumpers too, so expect them to come for you.
All right, so also on the jetpack, given this wide environment that you have, clearly for me as an MMO player, I usually peg hard as an explorer. I like to see different parts of the world. When I first got in here, it was great. I was flying around my jetpack, I was seeing different areas, it was really neat, but I found it was never incentivized. So how are we rewarding the explorer player for exploring in Firefall?
Well, in current beta, we've done almost nothing other than those epic vistas that, you know, you can climb your way on the top and appreciate those amazing sunrises and sunsets that Firefall offers. But for the current milestone that we're working on is primarily PvE focused. And we've been putting a lot more stuff for players to do in the world around PvE. To be a little more specific to yours, we have a concept of finding really cool spots and appreciating those spots with a mechanic when you get there. I'm not going to spill the beans because it's really fun to kind of find these places on your own. But exploration is something that we do plan on rewarding players a lot, and not just for EXP, but there's other reasons why you'd want to explore. And
define what makes a really cool spot, though.
Well, first is you're amazed that you got there, right? It was an effort to get there. Then you realize, like, holy shit, they actually put stuff here. Like there was something that was planned here, right? I went all the way to the top of Mushroom Rock and found this really cool thing.
All right, and this sort of gets me into a question about loot. For anybody who's a traditional MMO player, if you're a Diablo player, if you're most type of RPG player, you're used to going in, gunning down an enemy, and picking up a sword, a piece of armor. But that clearly doesn't happen here. That's not what we're getting in Firefall. In Firefall, we are getting nothing but crafting gear, pieces to build other pieces. Why?
Well, back to the, kind of our philosophy about, working towards an end goal is more rewarding. We wanted to make sure that players had more to do in the game than just shooting guys, right? Traditional shooters that have progression, there hasn't been a lot of activities around getting that stuff, right? You go out, you shoot, 10,000 guys in the face, and you get a new add-on to your gun, right? That's interesting, but I don't really feel that great about the add-on because it wasn't personal to me. If you interject crafting and I have to go out and get certain items to craft a gun that is specifically what I want, the effort that I get to put into that helps me tailor that specific piece of gear to me. And that offers players a lot more choice in terms of the type of gear they build and how they choose to build it.
All right. I have further questions on that, but first, let's just continue talking about the crafting system. We have a time delay. You go put something into your crafting bin, and you have to wait for it to come out. Why?
Why not? No.
I can give you some why nots.
Yeah, there's plenty of why nots. I mean, instant gratification is, we're an instant gratification society. But for Firefall, we wanted to make sure that your investment into the game had time-based elements into it that made the experience more interesting.
How does it make it more interesting to wait?
Well, you can look back at older games like Animal Crossing was a good example, right? There were things that would click off over time based on time elapsing. Right? We want to interject more of this stuff into Firefall. Crafting is the only component that you can see about that right now, because you can put stuff into the crafting terminal. Sometime later you can go back and get it. But a lot more of these time-based mechanics will start to then fire off. And the idea behind the crafting time is that, well, you can put your crafting off, but there's plenty of other stuff for you to go do while you're waiting for this. And it creates a nice reward moment that later, when that crafting thing is done, now you can go back, get that item, and press forward on it.
So what you're saying is Firefall is basically like Animal Crossing.
We've been inspired by Animal Crossing, but we've been inspired by lots of other games as well too. And that's typically what I do. Is if I go out and I play an experience that I really like, and it has a component that I think can make a game that I'm working on better, then usually I'll try to pull that component over.
I think you're still going to have to justify for me, because if I was on multiple different platforms, right, I could understand. If I was on my mobile, putting in a crafting item from the bus, I could see some reward out of the wait. But I'm not sure, what do we lose by giving things to players instantly? Let's look at the problem from the other side.
What we would lose then is it would be too fast for you to progress and attain all those items, right? There was no time-based element. It's like, I kind of look at it like, so let me give you a good example. There was a game back in the day called Gauntlet, which had this element to where you had a food. You had to go out, collect the food, and then you could survive and play the game more. Well, one particular day, that machine was left unlocked, so anybody could reach down and put in a buttload of money. And it made the game totally boring, right? These elements, even though they might be perceived as negative, make your experience a positive one.
But you still have to earn the crafting components, right? You still have to go out and put in your time and effort to get the crafting components in the first place.
Yes, but that's fun.
Right, so where is the fun in the further waiting?
Repetition, setting up that cycle, right? It's like knowing that that's going to kick off, and then while you're waiting for that, you get to go out and do something else.
See, that seems like an advantage for you guys to know that I'm going to come back, but for me as a player. But I know.
Coincidence? I think not.
Fancy that. But I was wondering about that one. I know we haven't gotten you involved in this very much. There's a bunch of questions I want to ask, but I know we got a video to show. So I think we should just cut to the video and then come back, and then I got some questions for you.
Sure, sounds good.
Awesome.
Welcome back, everybody. Some pretty major changes have been happening to Firefall in the last few months. We've had classes swapped in and out, we've had a combat overhaul, and a total revamp of the crafting system. But the thing that's interesting me most right now is this idea of dynamic events they've been toying with. You see, it answers one of the very first questions we asked lead designer Mark Kern on the very first day we met. How do you get away from the standard MMO quests? You know the ones. Fetch, FedEx, grind. Epic hero, I'm in desperate need of 10 rat feet. Can you help me? We have done 1,000 of these across numerous MMOs. Heck, some of us have probably done several thousand. Now, while these quests are often an essential part of what gives MMOs their longevity, and I don't think we should break away from them completely, I think it's time for the next step. Time to do something different. After all, most avid MMO players will recognize all these quest types from the MUDs way back in the 1980s. So what is the next step? How can we retain that goal-driven, always something to do nature of MMOs while making that something to do more interesting? Well, the approach Firefall is taking seems twofold. It's a technical shift, but also a philosophical one. On the technical side, they're implementing something they call dynamic events. These are events that aren't simply placed in the world. They're triggered by a combination of player patterns and a dynamic AI. So imagine if an MMO had Left 4 Dead's AI director. That's basically what they're going for. It places events, rearranges enemy spawns, and in general simply makes things more dynamic in response to how players play. This opens up whole new doors on how alive we can make an MMO world feel. Guild Wars 2 recently introduced situational events, which are a fantastic evolution of the classic MMO quest model, but in some ways they're still static. They really add to the feel of the world and give a vibrant living sense to the place you're playing in, but it's still a rigidly prearranged system under the hood. The second or third time you play through any given zone, the quest patterns become very obvious and game-like. It's still a huge step forward, don't get me wrong, but how much more compelling could we make these events if they were truly responsive? If we could add these world events not based on set triggers, but rather on the subtle shifts of player behavior as understood by an overarching AI. You can kind of think of it as a scaled-back dungeon master, creating a tale that's more compelling than a linear series of events. How cool would that be to have a DM, even in an extremely limited form for your MMO? Now, before I get carried away though, let me take a quick step back. I'm aware that we might be upselling this feature a bit. We've only seen bits and pieces of the dynamic event system so far, and heard the team's plans for what they intend it to be. And if you ask me, it's likely to be far from perfect at launch. No one gets a system that complex perfect right out of the gate. No, as with many of Firefall's features, we're excited about the possibilities, about what might happen if they knock this out of the park, and what it'll mean for MMOs in the future. I've said it before in previous videos, but one of the main reasons we're doing this little series is because we're impressed by the risks Red 5 has been willing to take, that they're even attempting things like this, things that have never been pulled off before. They're really reaching for the sky here, and maybe they'll just end up falling flat on their face. Or maybe they'll actually succeed. Either way, we're just excited that they're trying it. So take everything we say here with a grain of salt, because this system probably won't feel like a dungeon master even in a limited capacity right away. But if they keep iterating on it and refining the system, what if it eventually does? That would just... There was something else I was supposed to oh, right. There's also the philosophical shift to talk about. For the longest time, MMO design has largely been about actions occurring within a space. The design focus was on placing these actions within that space. Quests occur at specific locations. Monsters spawn here, 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 and here, at specific points in the world. No one really considers the possibility of events happening in time. And this is because if an NPC only gave a quest at 8 AM world time, well, that would just be annoying. But what if we thought about time in a different way? If we thought about it in terms of the time you spend between when you log in and when you log out? What if we thought of events unfolding around you as you play, unfolding in your time? This would help us create a much better interest curve for MMOs, and get away from the idea of the town quest hub, where you arrive, gather 20 different quests, wander outside to complete them, check everything off the to-do list, go back to town and turn them in. Imagine if there was something like a D&D table of random events that would be rolled for your character periodically as you played, to make sure that even no 2 sessions of grinding would be the same. That's the idea behind time-based dynamic events. Put those two together, and then allow event outcomes to change based on how they're completed, and you have a potentially awesome system that'll let designers break away from the classic questing model and deliver something much more dynamic. In this system, the game world isn't just something for the player to act on, but rather something which they're a part of, something which acts on them. So yeah, it's a lofty goal, but even if the end result doesn't quite live up to Red 5's ambitions, it'll still be a big step toward creating a living world like we've always wanted in an MMO. Thanks for watching.
welcome back, guys. I hope you all enjoyed that video. We're going to get into dynamic events a bunch right now, but one of the first things I wanted to throw at you was a question I had about the female characters in the game. I see you can see what's coming, right? Female characters and the female/dance seems exploitive to me. Female character isn't wearing anything up to here on half her leg. You start in some booty shorts and a sports bra. What's going on? Why that, especially with the tone of the rest of the piece?
Well, so we get asked this question a lot. You know, it's one of those tough things to cover just because art tends to be a very subjective matter. When we look at the design of Firefall, how we decided to do the characters, how we decided to come up with the final look of the overall game, you know, things evolve, things change a lot based off of kind of where things are going, what kind of audience we're trying to appeal to, and just what really kind of sings to everybody's soul at the company. So we go through a lot of design, a lot of different takes on what the armor should look like, how many suits we have, and things like that. And you know, I'm not gonna lie, sex sells. It's one of those things that appeals to a large audience of males. But you know, it's just one of those things where the design, you know, the overall design of the engineer, especially with the one pant leg missing, was meant to be asymmetrical. And it can still be asymmetrical, obviously, without having that, but that was just one of those added elements that kind of pulled it all together in terms of when we were designing that character. But, you know, there's really no super deep thought or logic or reasoning behind it other than aesthetically pleasing.
So, while maybe aesthetically pleasing to some of us, there's a large portion, I mean, and MMOs do have a fair amount of female audience. I think we do them a disservice by having this as your default or only female. Are there any plans to address this issue? Because it does, I mean, you guys know I love you. You know that I think Firefall is awesome, but this is one thing that concerns me and concerns a lot of my audience, frankly.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely, I mean, you can see in the game right now we are selling cosmetics and different aesthetic changes to the battle frames, the characters, hats, you know, different facial hairstyles. It is something that we have thought about, talked about, and are designing, you know, other ways of complementing your character's looks. So I definitely do want to push a lot of different variations and changes that people can, you know, don on their characters to really tailor fit that avatar to how they want to be seen. So don't look at it as like, oh, this is the end all be all. Every character is going to have one pant leg missing, and you know that's just what we're putting out there. No, not at all. Definitely have a lot of ideas for other stuff too.
Sure, and I will grant you that pandering sells, but to me, there is something, especially about this project, which I mean, the reason that I started working with you guys in the first place, started saying, hey, I'm happy to throw down behind it, is because a lot of this project is about the angels of our better nature, right? Is about this idea that we can do something more with this game. There's a lot of ways we're experimenting. Mm-hmm. And so it disappoints me to see that same attitude in the art when we have so many other options, right? And when even we're trying to do so many other inventive things with the art style, right? We should at some point talk about the color palette, because this is not the color palette we either see typically in shooters or in post-apocalyptic games. And so there's a lot of places where we're taking that risk. And to do the lowest common denominator thing here, to really do the thing which says to an entire side of our audience, you don't play our game, was disappointing to me.
Well, I kind of look at it on the flip side, though. I mean, what do you say to the other side of the audience that does appeal to that and that does want that type of, you know, exposure from the characters? You know, they want to see characters that look really good, that are sexually appealing. And, you know, we have both in there. We have covered up characters. We have the recon who's covered up all the way up to her neck. And then we have characters that are more exposed. So you get the balance of both when you're trying to appeal to a global audience.
But as a guy, my male character class choices, while some of them have exposed arms and all that sort of thing, those are projections of masculinity for me. They are not overly sexualized or sex objects, right? Mm-hmm. Whereas the female, as a female player, if I want to play my own gender, I have to limit what classes I play if I want to have something that is reasonable. And so what do I say to people who want to objectify their character? I mean, I really think that we're more than that. I mean, I think we're better than that. I think we should think of both ourselves and our avatars as more than that. So I guess to me, that's our answer, right? That we can do better.
Well, we do plan on providing some more aesthetics down the road to further customize your looks. The choice that we made for the female engineer, some people like it, bothers some people. You can never please everyone all the time. We chose to put it in the game because we thought it did fit with what we were trying to project as in terms of the style of the game, the feel of the characters, and kind of the fun and lighthearted look at the world. We don't want to take ourselves too seriously.
And we should talk about the lighthearted feel of the world in general. And I understand this not wanting to take ourselves too seriously, but to me, you have moments in the game that are very serious, that are totally belied by the fact that you've got a character who is essentially wearing nothing for armor in this post-apocalyptic war zone.
That's because she's so badass. She doesn't need armor.
And then she says, "Who says girls can't shoot?" Right. So anyway, moving on. I want to get that out there. I feel like it's been expressed. I would love to hear more from you guys about this as time goes on, but there's a lot of other questions I want to ask you. So I'll leave it at that for right now. Tell me about the art style, especially about we are in a very different space artistically than we usually see in shooters. We usually see in anything that claims to be post-apocalyptic, which very much, I mean, this is an apocalypse going on. So tell me about those choices. Tell me about the world we're in.
Yeah, so I mean, the world of Firefall, when we set out to discover and really put together what the look of the game is going to be, we crossed a lot of different boundaries. We did a lot of iteration trying
4
to
different art styles.
Yeah, we went from everything from photorealism to extreme manga, and then whittled it down and basically homogenized it to what we have now. A lot of influences out there that we've taken from, and one of the main ones that we've actually geared part of the look of the game to was Appleseed Ex Machina. It kind of brought a nice homogenization of photorealism with a anime style look to it. And it's something that we're still evolving and polishing and developing. As people have seen with our last big patch that we did, we completely changed the shader on the characters and started incorporating more of that Appleseed Ex Machina look into it. One of the things, you mentioned post-apocalyptic, and that's something that really kind of stuck with us. We wanted to break out of the norm, which is that very drab brown and gray look that you see in most games, especially post-apocalyptic games. There's so many games out there that just lack color. They lack a color palette. This is something you're going to be spending a lot of time in. When you're in the game for hours on end, it's nice if you have somewhere that's really welcoming and inviting, and something that feels very comfortable and beautiful to explore. Whereas when you're going out into the desert and see nothing but sand and dirt and rocks and everything's brown and drab, it's not the kind of place you want to really stay in. And so that was a big part of the decision making in pulling so much color into the world. As we evolved the style, we wanted to make sure we were appealing to a global audience. And that's a really big point of fact for the game and why we went through so many iterations with the art style, was doing photorealism, doing something that kind of matches the generic style of shooters, your Call of Duty, your Battlefield, your Gears of War. That kind of appeals more to a Western audience. Then you look at the Eastern side, you go to that market, and it's completely different. And so how do you make something that really works and caters to both markets and a global audience abroad? So that's what really took us so long in developing the art style and trying to figure out who has done it successfully. What can we look at and what are they doing that's different than what everyone else has done? And that's kind of where we really fit this together.
We also wanted to make sure that if you walked up behind somebody playing Firefall, you would know what it is. It has that over-the-shoulder appeal that you just don't see in other shooters. And we really wanted to make that mark.
Well, how do you guys use the vibrant color palette how do you use that juxtaposition with what's happened to the world to help express not the plot, but the narrative, the world space the player's in?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Well, good way of buying yourself time. I do this all the time.
What?
So how do you use... Why do we have that color palette? Besides the fact that it's clearly got the over-the-shoulder, right? We've just seen Medal of Honor war fighter where they had to actually stamp the name of the game on every single screenshot so people could actually tell them apart. That's not the case here, right? You instantly know it's Firefall. Right. That part's great, right? A lot livelier, tells me something different. But how do we use that juxtaposition to highlight things about this world or this apocalypse, right? Because you've got this really unique setting. And we can also talk about why Brazil.
So, just to sell the fact that the world isn't basically burnt up and drab and things like that. Part of the story of the ArcLight crash, which came before the melding, is that the actual engines, the drives are still alive, and they act as a melding repulsor. So the melding did come through and follow it, and basically engulf the Earth. But the areas where the ArcLight fragments are left are still pushing it back, keeping it at bay. So those areas really weren't destroyed. The melding does have a tendency to mutate whatever it touches and wants to consume different things and consume living organisms. And it's brought a lot of that stuff from different dimensions, different planes, because it's not of our dimension. So to explain basically how we were able to keep color and how we were able to keep an area look fresh and alive is really just that it was never tainted or hasn't been tainted yet.
Yep. And to me, that was the thing that I wanted to get at, right? With the art style, I saw a great opportunity for pointing out, instead of an apocalypse that's about the end of the world, that's about dying or about being just not dead, you've got this apocalypse that says we're still alive, right? We're still here because of how vibrant, how colorful the place is. And I see that in a lot of the town settings and that sort of thing. And so I was just wondering what you're doing there. But I know we have only a couple more minutes before we got some stuff, I think, to give away. So lastly, why Brazil?
Why Brazil? That is a good question that I do not have an answer for. I think that was more of a Mark Curran question, so I'm going to defer and say, I don't know.
All right.
There was a lot of things that happened that actually worked out great. The fact that it worked out in Brazil. One of it is one of the the writers that we're working with, which is Orson Scott Card. Spent a lot of time in Brazil and has a lot of knowledge and background there, and it really worked into the development of the game and the Firefall lore and how things kind of evolved from there.
All right. So. And it made a lot of sense to me. I think when we get to talk to Mark, we'll talk more about it. I do a lot of work in Brazil, and so it made a lot of sense culturally to fit with some of the things that are going on. But we'll get out to that in a moment. Right now, I think we've got some tiki time to go to. So we'll see y'all in a few.
Hey guys, welcome back to Firefall.
What's going on?
You're on our set this time.
I'm here.
I smile, but I'm actually quite upset.
What's the matter?
Scott stole Chuck.
You did, Scott.
What?
Scott
Looking
kidnapped
directly
Chuck.
into the camera, even though he can't see me, and letting him know that he stole our Bronodon.
It's not right, man.
Son of a. Yeah.
I want Chuck back.
It's okay. It's all right. I got you guys.
Please. Oh God, you're sweating on me. Get it off me.
That's
please.
true. Yep.
Freaking young
Just
blood.
combining our body heats. That's not a good idea.
It's gross.
Yeah.
Right.
Anyways, I was going to touch your sweat rag, but I'm not going to.
I'll grab it for you.
I did put that there. Just
We're going to give away some prizes, guys. So
prizes.
We got some good stuff.
okay, let's go ahead and give away some T-shirts. But while we do that, I want to give a couple shout-outs to some people.
Sure.
Let's do our fan sites. What do we got? We got Bronodon.com.
Yeah.
Yep.
So Punk out there at Bronodon.com, they're doing a Bronodon Brawl, which is another Tier 1 tournament.
November 17th.
Next month, yeah. They're also working with the guys doing New Eden LGV circuit, so they
Yep.
can do some LGV races.
That's the British Army.
Yep.
So not Her Majesty's Army, but the British Army.
We got
it wasn't funny the first time.
Oh, well.
No, try it again in the
Yeah.
next broadcast.
Yeah,
That'd
next
be
time.
good. Maybe the third
Tune
time's-
in for Nathan Fillion tomorrow where I try that joke again.
Yes. Third time's a charm.
Way to push people away. Even Nathan Fillion can't beat that.
You're going to be like, nah, guys, I can't make it. It's just
Yeah.
not going to work.
Not in my time slot. So, what else do we have? We have some European sites, Firefall.pl, a great Poland site.
Yep.
Firefall.es, a great Spanish site.
Yes.
Firefall-Velten.de.
Svelte?
Not Svelten.
Svelte?
You
know, I like
Don't sit back down on the couch. So they're a great German site. We also have Copacabana Express
Copacabana Express
and Firefall-wiki.com.
and Ragin.com.
What?
What? Oh,
Really? Did Raging
no.
start his own site?
No, he didn't.
You don't want to listen to Raging talk for a long time, anyways.
Oh man.
Oh crap, he's gonna hate me now.
Oh, he's gonna kill us.
So check those.
We'll have to get you a T-shirt. Sorry.
Wasn't me.
Did you bring back my Bronodon?
Can we have Chuck back, please?
Bitch. Scott's off camera taunting us. So let's give away some shirts.
Let's give away some shirts.
How do you want to do it?
Let's give away some shirts. We did it last time in Twitch, right?
Yeah.
So let's go to IRC. Let's show some
Oh,
love.
they're gonna
Are
hate
you in
us.
IRC?
No, I'm not in IRC.
I'm not in IRC right now either.
Let me
Wow,
join
we're
in the
not even,
IRC
we don't even
spam.
have it pulled up.
But we're going to do it in IRC. We'll
We're
join
gonna
up
do
real
it.
quick. IRC.globalgamers.net, pound Firefall. That's a community-run Firefall channel.
Yeah.
So for those of you that are old school and like to chat on IRC, that is definitely the place to go.
Woo!
Both
Oh,
Pez and I are usually in there every day, but I don't even have Merc installed on this laptop.
Yeah, I actually have that laptop that you had.
Yeah, we
I don't know.
swapped, and
It's
now
like-
I can't use his ice chat crap. But
Do we have any community questions?
we do, actually. They provided us some questions. So
Yay.
one of the questions that Punk asked, as with any community, as it grows larger, so does the signal-to-noise ratio. How do you intend to deal with... let me
Really?
finish the question. How do you intend to deal with this and still include the community as deeply in the development process as you currently are? First of all, thank you for saying that we're deeply involving the community. I appreciate that.
Thanks, Punk.
Some people forget that, how much we actually go to our community to ask for
do.
feedback, and we actually take that feedback and make changes. Sometimes it's not always what everybody wants, but we try to make sure that we work with as many people as we can.
Can't please all the people all the times.
Whoa.
Whoa.
So we do try to work with that. Now,
that
you're
thing.
absolutely right that as the community grows larger, the signal to noise ratio changes. You get a lot more noise and a lot less signal. However, we have already implemented some of the tools that we use, like user voice, which really helps consolidate ideas and suggestions, and we get to know what are the most important suggestions from the community. And we'll definitely need to continue to build tools off of that so that you guys can use it a lot easier. On top of that, we're completely changing the way our NCO program works. Currently, we have 6 NCOs that
Something like that.
are helping out with the community, and we brought them on, a long time ago, almost 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Like maybe a year and a half to almost 2 years ago.
Before I even started.
So what we're doing is actually going to change that program so that the community itself votes on who they want to act as an NCO, and then those NCOs will represent the community whenever we do like a roundtable. So they'll actually be able to do that. So we'll be announcing that later. But for now, I think those are some of the things we're working on. Obviously, if you guys have any suggestions on how we can better utilize your ideas, let us know.
Oh yeah! Wow, you're like
That was
no,
disrespectful.
No, he's like David Letterman when he takes
Oh,
a
okay.
kid.
I
He's
got you.
like,
I got you.
I'm
I got
done. You know,
I got it.
T-shirts.
All right.
We're doing an
T-shirt.
IRC. You're in IRC?
IRC.
Taywin's a little shaken up about the NCO news, but
Aw, Taywin, you'll still be always in my heart. No, you won't.
did
Yeah.
you just?
I did do. I started to, and then I broke it up as quickly as possible.
They're gonna freeze frame it.
All right.
less than
so,
3?
First T-shirt winner,
Who's
Pick
that?
one.
Moist.
More. I
would pick
hate
moist.
that word.
First,
I hate
first you
that
tickle
word.
a sack, and then you pick moist.
Oh
Moist.
wow, we're bringing that joke back. I hate that word. Ugh. It's the.
What?
It's just
word.
a weird. No, it's a
You're
weird.
moist
Oh,
all the time.
No, I can't believe you said
This is gonna be
that.
awesome from now on. He's not sweaty. It's not sweat rag. It's moisture.
No, it is not.
moist rag.
Absolutely not.
Now, I want to make sure that wasn't a Freudian slip. No, it wasn't. There actually is a moist, and he was talking.
Is this a rhombus table? Would you say?
Does it have 6 sides? Because if it does, then yes, it would be a rhombus table. All right, deal with it. Rhombus.
No, it does not have 6 sides, and no, it is not a rhombus.
Whoa, okay, who else wants a T-shirt? I'm getting off. Let's go with Fluffy. What is that?
Fluffernutter?
What?
No, I'm just making something up.
Fluffy Sleep. Fluffy Sleep. You're getting a T-shirt. Congratulations.
Fluffy sleep.
Fluffy Sleep and
So message Faded Pez.
Moist.
We'll get your contact.
Yeah, just send me a
information.
private message right here on the.
Which
on
maker
IRC.
you on?
Faded Pez, Pipe, Firefall Fest. all
Pipe
caps.
Firefall Fest. Pipe Firefall Fest.
Oh, with the R5S and square brackets before the Faded.
I'm sure
Whatever.
they'll find you.
You'll
He's an
find
op
me.
in the channel. You'll be able
Am
to
I?
find him.
Okay, yeah, I should be.
What else are we going to give away this hour?
we're going to be giving away the Type-In ambidextrous mouse from Razer.
Can I see that?
You got it. As well as the Goliathus mouse pad from Razer.
Can I see
Sure.
Awesome mouse.
I guess I'll get nothing. You know, I bring the prizes on, and you're, can I? Yeah, that's fine.
It's actually a really nice mouse.
It is. That's why I was holding it.
Okay, moving on. So, if you guys want the mouse pad and the mouse, where are we giving this away?
I don't know. You guys took it away from me. Oh, I get to choose.
Where are we giving this away?
Oh, damn.
You just have to ask.
Let's do what? Twitter? Or you want to do IRC again?
We're already in IRC.
Let's do IRC
Let's
still.
do IRC.
But let's give people a couple minutes to get in there.
Yeah.
So we're going to give
All
these
right.
away on IRC. You've got a couple minutes to get in there.
right.
Obviously, there's a little delay. We're on a delay.
In the
with about
meantime,
30
Scott
seconds.
Youngblood, return Chuck.
Where is Chuck? I need Chuck back. It's like I've lost my mojo.
I don't even know where to go with that. That's
It gives me.
Take some blood cupcake meatballs.
Hit me.
yes.
Boom.
Chuck
There we
is
go.
back.
He's never leaving my shoulder.
Yes, he is.
Until
He wants
now.
to graze on the pumpkins again.
It was a good journey on my shoulder. It lasted
awesome.
3 seconds.
IRC is irc.globalgamers.net. Pound
Get on there.
Firefall.
Just tell us you want one.
Yeah, just say I want a razor.
I want some razor flag.
You can actually see the mouse pad like in there. You can even feel it.
Yeah, you can feel it.
like-
It's like
They're
feels like a mouse
fondling
pad.
your mouse pad as we speak.
it's a scratch and sniff.
Whoa, that's gross.
Try it.
No, he'll use it as a sweat rag. Don't give it back to him.
I don't just use anything as a sweat rag. Like, oh god, oh banana, perfect. Whew.
Look at what has happened to our couch. There's like a Tony-shaped stain in there.
That is a complete falsity. No,
You guys can't see the couch, so it's a total truth.
that's absolutely incorrect.
Okay, enough time has passed. If you're not on IRC yet, you're probably not going to be anywhere. You guys making fun of IRC and saying, I don't have my Commodore 64. Whatever, guys. IRC is awesome. It
Yeah.
stands for Internet Relay Chat. And if you really think about it, it's like two ships passing
It's-
in shipping lanes.
Yeah.
And you use LeetSpeak,
You
right? That's
only
how
use-
IRC
you only
works,
use
right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, you only use least.
I'm being told, yes, that's how IRC works.
Yes, by our makeup
Confirmed by
artist.
numbers.
Perfect.
If you watch numbers on television, that's how it works.
All right, so let's pick somebody.
You pick.
I pick? Okay, perfect.
You get
Here we
to
go.
pick again?
And the winner of
No,
the raise.
don't send me messages, Rocco.
They're telling you the couch is moist.
The couch is not moist, and that's a disgusting word. I don't like what's going on right now. Wow, it's going so fast I can barely even see it. I really cannot read a single. Too easy. Too easy. TWOEASE or SY. I can spell.
Oh wow!
You know what's funny is the word that I messed up was too easy. Like it wasn't too hard or too difficult. It was too easy, and I
Too
messed
easy.
it up. Okay, too easy.
If you want a
You're getting
t-shirt-
the Razor products.
T-shirt.
If you want a T-shirt or a mouse on IRC, send me a message on
Faded
IRC.
Pez, R5S Faded Pez,
I really think you're gonna be
pipe
hitting me with
thingy.
that. I'm scared.
Like a pipe like that, like the Tetris thing.
pipe.
What's going on?
I'm trying to explain what a pipe looks like for those people who
It's
don't
this,
know.
look.
They're like looking on their keyboards.
that?
Where's pipe? It's on the backslash button for those of you who don't know.
you know what? I'll type something in IRC and make it easy.
There
for
you go.
That'd be helpful. 5 minutes ago.
Massage me. Message me.
They're making fun of you because you
I
picked
asked.
Too Easy, who's part of Epsilon.
Is he
he
part of
really?
that? That's kind of cool.
Hey, you know what? I didn't know.
It's not like you could get this gear for free, though, right? Way to go, dude.
Hey, you know what?
Hey, he won fair and square.
Here's the thing,
won.
maybe
He wanted it, so he's good.
Yeah.
So we're moving on.
I'm sorry.
There you
It
go.
was
You
a
can take-
random contest.
you can
Don't know
take
what to
that
tell
back.
you.
That's how random it is.
It is so random that we don't even know who we're picking.
I really didn't.
That's how you know
He
it's not
doesn't
scripted.
know Too Easy. Actually.
I don't know Too Easy.
He wasn't at Gamescom to meet Too Easy.
There you go. I'm
I
in
met
the
Too
clear.
Easy. All the Epsilon guys were really cool at Gamescom, actually.
Yeah.
I don't like this pressure of picking people because I'm already feeling the tweets coming. What
It's
are you
at
doing?
Tony Ray, by the way. At Tony Ray. At Matt DeWald and at Faded Pez. So if you want to contact us on Twitter.
And for all the official Firefall news, at Red 5 Studios.
Yeah.
Yes. And the other places you can check out are Facebook, facebook.com/Firefall. Our new YouTube channel where we release not only Firefall videos, including all the FSN videos that you guys have been seeing on the Twitter or on Twitch, and every single show we upload as soon as we can. So those are up there on youtube.com/Stage5TV. What else do we need to say? Official site, firefallthegame.com, but if you don't know that, you wouldn't be watching the stream, now would you?
We're
maybe.
giving the AMD away today.
We are giving the AMD away.
AMD PC.
What? Whole PC?
Yes. The entire package.
Except for mouse, keyboard, monitor, mouse pad.
Okay. Most of the package. And so for that, you are going to need to visit our Facebook page, facebook.com/Firefall. Like the page.
What? Well, yes, you have to like the
Yeah,
page.
you have to like the page.
And then you also need to like, and this is how we're keeping it to one entry per user,
So save your
like
tweets.
the extra credit post. So we
Yes.
posted about extra credit being on the show. So like that post.
Like the post.
Like the post, and that's what enters you in.
And if you like the post and you like the page and you like us,
Moist says he can't believe he won. The odds were so low, he still has not private messaged
Quiet.
you, by the way.
then go ahead and like those things, and we'll pick at the end of this show, in 2 more hours, we will pick a winner of the new AMD PC.
Yes, you got 2 hours.
Spec'd out to make Firefall look totally awesome. But for now, I think we're going to take a quick break and enjoy these videos. Talk to you guys later.
After I finished up working on World of Warcraft, it took me about 6 months before I realized that I really wanted to do something a little different. I wanted to take this huge persistent world idea and the idea of 1,000 players playing together and bring it more to an action format. And with Firefall, we wanted more of this sandbox approach. I mean, we got rid of levels, we let you roam anywhere in the world and fight anything you want to do, explore every nook and cranny, and get rewarded for doing it. And to have different dynamic events unfolding in the world that you can follow basically in a non-linear fashion. I wanted to be more organic. I wanted the players to go ahead and explore. And since there's no levels, we can open up the whole territory to you. You can go where you want. And we want you to discover the world organically so that when you arrive at an area, suddenly there's dynamic events unfolding in front of you and you can choose to participate in them, and they're different depending on where you go. Now, what sort of things can you do? Well, obviously there's regular sort of missions where you go out and you have to like push back a hisser nest, or you have to defend an area or convoy resources from one town to another. But there's also a special type of event that we call an on-demand dynamic event. And the main one right now in beta is called the Thumper. And the Thumper is this big mining drill that you call in from basically a dropship. And it lands wherever you've surveyed the land and found resources and starts drilling. And all these monsters start attacking you like Starship Troopers style. And you have to defend it so that the drill doesn't blow up and you can get the resources back. So what do you do with these resources? Well, you make stuff. And like I said before, you can make battle frame improvements to give your character more options in battle, different abilities, different armor, different reload speeds for your weapons. But you can also take these resources and basically use them to tweak the stats and the actual variables of your gear. So there's rarer resources and there's more common resources. And you can find some really rare stuff. And because it's a dynamic world, it may not ever appear there again. And if you put that into your gear, you're going to find that you've got certain stats and abilities that you can't get anywhere else. I really want players to play Firefall and go, gee, that's really opened my eyes. It's like I thought that MMOs had to be a certain way, but this is so much freer. This is so much more dynamic, and it doesn't feel like the world is going to be the same every time I log into it. And I always have something new to do. And what I'm experiencing may be very different from my friend's experience in the game.
Right now, we are running them free for $19.95. The shipping on these are free if you call within the next 10 minutes. And actually, it's pretty exciting because we haven't offered that before.
We haven't, and that's right. But if you do throw in a few extra bucks, I will hand deliver it to your house.
Oh,
No, seriously, Karen, I will come to your house, and we can hang out. Perhaps I could crash on your couch if you wouldn't mind me having something from your fridge.
That's great. I think, yes, that deal is still going. And you know what? If you buy 4 shirts, we're actually going to give you a free hat.
I'm pretty sure it's lunchtime. I'm out.
Philip's a little diabetic.
PvP in Firefall is all about shooting somebody in the face.
Combat in Firefall feels sort of like the good old days, back when games took longer to kill each other, there were resources on the maps that mattered, the speed was a little bit higher, and I had to be more tactical. Games like, for example, Quake.
I also like to liken Firefall to Team Fortress 2 a little bit. The way that you can mix up your different classes, have a team composition that is different according to the different situation. I also really like to play a lot of Halo. I think that there's some comparison to be made because of the verticality that the jump jets lend to the game, except we're a lot faster than Halo. So I think that blends some of my most favorite things of other PvP games.
Well, at its core, Firefall is a shooter. And so in PvP, that's where that experience really comes to light.
We've worked really hard on making our PvP easy to learn and difficult to master so that we can appeal to all sorts of skill levels and really reward those people who are willing to put in the time to get really good.
You do not have to play PvP in Firefall. There's a large open world, there's a lot of dynamic content, on-demand player content, plenty of things to do. However, that is a lot of work, and players put a lot into their battle frames, and they can bring them to PvP where they really shine.
I think that the game is made in such a way that people will want to play the PvP element. It's so much fun, and like Justin just said, it really gives you an opportunity to take advantage of all the hard work you put into the open world.
But we also have to make sure that it remains competitive and balanced.
Red 5 is really special and excites me a lot in the fact that we are putting some attention into our esports features before the game is even fully out and live, which is amazing. You don't see that a lot in the game industry. We've already provided an esports toolkit which provides a broadcast mode and an observer mode, which makes the game so much fun to watch, which is really a key thing to esports. You want to be able to see your elite players playing at that elite level and have everybody be able to watch it and appreciate it.
And as we've seen in a lot of other games, the esports players, all their skills sort of trickle down, whether it's through streams or YouTube videos or whatever. It gives the lower skilled players a way to practice, a way to learn, and to elevate themselves.
In the future, we're looking forward to definitely putting some objective-based modes into our PvP experience. We think that'll help it with the esports. We know that a lot of those competitive players love to see the objectives, and we plan on delivering that in the future.
There will be open world PvP in Firefall. And what we're doing right now is essentially using the battlegrounds and the esports to tune and to balance our PvP to make it fun on a lower level, on a nitty-gritty level, so that it's ready for open world combat at a larger scale.
Get shot down. Let's take another look. All right, there's the satchel and booyah! Good night.
Everybody, James Portnow from Extra Credits again. We got a new guest, so why don't you tell everybody who doesn't know who you are.
Hello, hello, I'm James McCauley, VP of Jazz Hands. It's really nice to be here. Thanks for joining us for Firefall Fest Day 5!
I will throw in on the clapping for that one. So what we didn't get to go to last time was talking about these dynamic events.
Yep.
This dynamic event system sounds fascinating. I have this vision of it that I think could be awesome, but why don't you guys talk a little bit about it before I start committing you guys to things that I really shouldn't.
Well, I would love to hear your ideas, and we would certainly love to. We're always open to feedback, and that's a real big part of our beta program. We are very focused on community-driven development.
Definitely.
And so we've been in beta for a long time, and actually we plan to be in beta for a little while longer, and that's very specifically so that we can start to develop more of the content that really resonates with players and that is really fun. The way we look at dynamic content is to really take the world and to kind of get rid of the kind of standard MMO model where you have a level 1 to 10 zone, a level 11 to 20 zone, level 21 to 30 zone, and so forth, where you have these quest hubs and you burn through this content, and then at some point in time you reach the end of the train, end of the line for the content, and then you're sitting there waiting for the next expansion. Our content and our game is really focused around building a world that is alive and happening. It's buzzing. Things happen based on time of day, time of week, time of year, seasonal. It's based on the state of the world, what players have done or maybe in some cases haven't done.
So I really want to get to that, but right before it, something else you said was really important. So for anybody out there who's playing the beta, how do they get their feedback to you?
Well, there are a couple different ways we do this, and actually a really great example is our summer milestone, which I think you guys talked briefly about earlier today. One of the biggest changes we made to the game came out in August. On August 23rd, we patched, or August 7th, sorry, we patched with a major change to progression, crafting, resources. We changed the fundamentals of the game. We changed run speed, we changed jump height, we changed jump jets, we changed weapons. For anyone in the beta or part of our community who's been following us will recognize that we changed an awful lot during the summer for the better. And what really was the catalyst for that was in February or March, we sent out a survey to all of our beta testers, and the survey asked very hard questions. The survey asked very specific questions. We asked, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much fun is the plasma cannon? On a scale of 1 to 10, how much are you enjoying these certain types of experiences or encounters? How does combat feel to you? How does movement feel to you? We asked a lot of questions, and from that, we received several thousand responses. Now, if you're looking at a spreadsheet with 7,000 entries, it takes an awful long time to go through that. But we took the time and we read every single response. We read every single response. We went through, we looked at the numbers, we looked at the average numbers. We saw that certain battle frames were way more fun than other battle frames, and that some battle frames really needed some work. We looked at certain experiences in the game and we saw that we're looking pretty good in this area, but we need more love over in this area. And from that, we kind of found some general trends. At the core, we realized the feedback that we were given is our game is very, in many ways, it's very approachable. Combat is approachable, but we didn't, I should say, back in May, we were lacking in having a high skill ceiling, right? And something that we have always talked a lot about internally is that we want Firefall to be easy to learn, hard to master, right? This is kind of a throwback to Atari back in the 70s saying that a game should be fun on the first quarter as well as the 100th quarter. And that's so very important, especially with a free-to-play game, that people are having fun time and time again and they want to come back day in and day out. That's how we're going to survive as a company and as a product, is if there's stickiness, if people enjoy playing the game and that they see that there's opportunities for mastery that keeps them coming back and practicing, whether it's PvE or PvP on a regular basis.
But other than them just sending you guys in the surveys that you asked them for, and it's great to know that you guys are really digging in and reading that sort of thing, is there any other way that they should reach out to you guys?
Yes.
The forums are good. Although we may not post a lot, we do read everything that does go on the forums. That's an easy way to give us your feedback, as well as sharing your feedback with the rest of the community.
Ever since we announced Firefall at PAX Prime 2010, we have actively been involved in the forums, and every single employee. We're not a traditional game studio where you have to be on the PR team or the marketing team to be able to say anything publicly, and perhaps you've already recognized this. Our entire team, they're watching the stream now, they're posting in chat, they're posting in the forums, they're in IRC. We care very, very much. This is something that, this is our dream game, this is our passion, and so everyone's engaged with the community and getting feedback directly. We also use something called user voice, which for any other company out there, any other group trying to get feedback from a large group of people, it is an awesome tool to use. And the way user voice works is everyone who's actively in the beta, they're given, I believe, 10 votes, 10 tickets. And you can use a ticket to either submit an idea. So, hey, James, I think we should have a melee class. Okay, cool, great idea. And then other players in a democratic fashion can cast their votes by using their tickets. And you can cast 1 vote per idea, or you could throw all 10 at one idea, like, hey, melee would be badass. Let's get someone up in here that has backstab, something like that. We look at this on a very regular basis. We sit down with our community team, we sit down with our design team, we look through user voice feedback, we look at general trends, and though sometimes the ideas that we read aren't necessarily appropriate for what we're trying to do with the game, it's telling us, it's communicating it to us that people are having problems with something, or they want something more. And so with that feedback, with those ideas and suggestions, we can actually provide solutions, or we can provide improvements to the game to really satisfy some of the general, like the high-level trends that people are citing.
Yep.
All right, so that's fantastic. I want to take us back to this dynamic world system, because when you're talking about it, day, night, events throughout the year, sure, we've seen that in MMOs before. We've seen our special one-off events for Halloween and whatever. I want more than that. Tell me what it's going to be more than that, because it sounds like it's going to be more than that.
So, when we first set down this path of creating dynamic content, it was a new and unexplored territory. And to be very honest, in many ways, the game we're building, we're not following any other game. And that makes it a very, very big challenge, right? On a technical side, we're building one of the most complicated games you could imagine building, right? A high-action game with lots of physics collision in real time. And oh, by the way, we have latency because we're an online game, and players are connecting from Belgium to San Jose. Right? These are the realities of the world, and it's a very complicated technical project. On the design side, we didn't make it easy on ourselves. We could have started out and said, we're going to make a PvE game, right? We're going to make an online MMO FPS that's PvE only. And that would have been easier in some regards. We could have started off and said, we're going to make an online team-based action shooter that's PvP only. And that would have made it a lot easier in some ways. But doing both together with esports, with armies and clan support, with tournaments and leagues and ladders, all rolled up in one, causes us to have to deal with a lot of additional questions, such as balance between PvP and PvE. How do we make combat perfectly balanced in a game where we also want to have progression? Super, super challenging thing. And so that's been a big part of our effort, is really trying to work on those things. Back to your question.
Good, because I was actually going to drag you back to the question.
Back to your question. Dynamic content, it's a completely new thing. So when we set down this path, we were, many of us in previous projects have worked in engines where you hand place anchors for creatures, right? This is the simplest.
Right.
We'll start very, very basic. We could hand place spawns for Ranas down on the beach. And that would mean that every single Rana spawn is handcrafted. We have it jumping out from behind a rock. It feels really perfect. It's dramatic, whatever. As dramatic as an Rana jumping out from a rock can be. That's cool, but it doesn't scale, and it actually doesn't work towards our goals of building a dynamic world, because now players who play a lot, and we have a lot of beta testers who are playing every single night, they clock in a lot of hours, they know where all the Iranas are hiding, right? So first step, we invested in our technology to allow spawn tables to actually be able to spawn creatures in a logical and smart manner across the world. So our designers can actually go in and they can paint sub-zone grids. So we can say, hey, this is New Eden. Right now, the melding is exposing Coral Forest. You played in Coral Forest, right? Within Coral Forest, we have sub-regions. So let's, for sake of discussion, since everyone knows Copacabana, let's use the beach area around Copacabana. So we can now paint this region and assign parameters to it. These parameters can influence what types of resources are available in that area, what types of creatures spawn in that area, and even what types of encounters spawn in that area. So in this way, we can build these experiences, these gameplay mechanics that aren't static. They're not always showing up in one spot, but just being triggered based on a calendar or based on a clock. They're truly and actually randomly spawned. And we can go into a lot of details on how that works if you want to know more. But it's in this way, when you sign in, you go down to the beach, you'll see an Arana nest now, but it's not in the same location that it was yesterday. Or if I destroy it, one will reappear down the beach somewhere. We can our designers can control density of spawns, can control how many of a unique spawn there are in a region, and can actually have a lot of control over the encounters that take place in that location as well.
And one of the primary goals behind making them dynamic in general was that it would be a fresh experience. Like each time you go in, these encounters by themselves will do different things depending on where they're at. But when they are close to each other, they'll intermix and emergent gameplay will happen. And that's what I want to see as a game player. Is I want to go through the world not exactly knowing what I'm going to see. And when I see something cool happen because this was there, and then the chosen job prod came in, and then that happened. Like that's totally awesome. And you can't get that in a game where all the content is statically positioned and it's the same thing every single time. I want fun. that reaches out and tickles me.
Yeah, I mean, really, like, there are so many opportunities for things to just happen that you're not planning on, that we're not planning on. We couldn't possibly script the dream, I should say. What we're building is that we couldn't possibly script out every single encounter that you're experiencing, and that every time you play, it is different.
Mm-hmm.
And in the end, I mean, I agree. One of the things I think is awesome about this project is that we're trying all these things which are radical and new and different. And
it's crazy.
It is, right? Like, to me, you also present yourself with a group of difficulties, right? Like, there's as many good moments as can happen. You're gonna have to be really careful with that randomization system to make sure the bad moments don't happen, right? But
so what types of bad moments would you be expecting?
The moment where your new player accidentally hits 2 spawn points, right? Hits a spawn point, is backing up in your really dynamic combat, runs into another spawn point, gets mauled, right?
Well, so to that, I would say that the new player experience is critical. It's absolutely imperative. Yeah. And for people who are in beta, they know that we haven't built out our new player experience yet. So our new player experience takes place immediately after the Arclight crashes. The game begins right now, 6 months in.
I'm glad that you mentioned that, because for any of you guys who are in beta or about to get in the beta, that was one of my major problems with it. The new player experience just isn't there. We literally start the text with 6 months later when we have nothing before that 6 months.
And we know that, and that's something that internally you can ask the entire team. Everyone knows that we need to build that.
Yep.
However, we're still refining the game. We're still building out core systems. So before we spend a lot of energy building a new player experience that teaches you how combat works, we should make sure that we have finalized combat, or that teaches you certain mechanics. And so right now in the beta, you go through a chain of missions in Copacabana. That is a linear chain of missions, and that's really intended to give you kind of the overview of certain mechanics in the game, to teach you about sin, to teach you about E to interact, to teach you about killing creatures, and so forth. But long term, and this is early next year, we'll be really focusing on the new player experience, and that will really ease players in. And then once you're in the open world, I don't know if I necessarily agree that backing up into spawn table is a bad thing. I think that it provides you with a really interesting and exciting experience.
So we'll get back to that in a moment. As far as the new player experience, the other thing is I'm very excited to see you guys not only teach with that new player experience, but really sell Firefall, because my one main real issue is that this is something different, right? I haven't experienced an FPS, MMO, open world, and I get in, and it's not showing me why that's a rich experience.
Yeah, you know, it's tough. Like back in, I don't know.
PAX demo. PAX demo killed it, right? That PAX demo you guys showed 2 years ago, when it was the ships coming in and everybody working together to kill that stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
That's in beta now.
But that moment,
But you know what? Sometimes that triggers when a new player arrives, and that's a little that throwing you right in, man.
You know, they should have not brought their jawbones with them. That's all I'm saying.
Well,
but getting back to our dynamic event system, I mean, there's a whole host of dangers to me, including, I mean, basically, it clearly doesn't give us, done improperly, it could give us a system that doesn't allow us to as finely tune difficulty.
But doing anything improperly could give us a bad game.
Right. But we have we have a lot of precedent to go on. It's very easy to look back and do the hand placed spawns at least passably. The thing you guys are doing, I think, fascinating but dangerous. But to really make it compelling to me, a lot of this stuff has to be based on player behavior, right? It has to feedback. It has to.
Yes, and that's the beauty of this.
And that's what I want to know about.
Based off what we're doing as players, we can join up and go. So here's an example. Scott and I, when we back in August when we patched, we added in the Chosen Incursion, right? Yep. And the Chosen actually, they start to expand, and they eventually will start building bases. Now, if left unattended, they'll actually spawn in more Chosen, they'll build up defenses, they'll build up weapons, and they're laser sharp accuracy. It's a real challenge to get in there and take them down. Scott and I went out there, and the two of us started working on it and whittling away, and it was a 45 minutes experience. Yeah. And finally, we had to recruit other people in Zone Chat. Yo, everyone, calling all people to come help us take down this Chosen Incursion. And it took, I don't know, it ended up taking probably 8, 9, 10 of us to finally unite and to take this Chosen down. One of the things we're actually rolling out in our up-and-coming beta, release date TBD, soonish.
Soon, TM.
Hopefully soonish, maybe tomorrow, maybe next week.
It has to be ready.
We're going to be patching in a lot more improvements to the Chosen War, really taking a step towards the dream that we have for the world that is truly dynamic. And the backbone to the experience, it's really this war between the humans and the Chosen. And you know about the Chosen from their story standpoint. In the next hour, I think Mark and Tim are going to join you to talk about lore. But the Chosen emerged from the Melding, and they are an aggressive alien race that have been stopping at nothing to destroy mankind. They actually start to expand, much like, in some ways, a real-time strategy game.
And what I really wanted to know is, clearly we can take a huge amount of metrics at this point on players in our MMO. We can really get a sense of what they're doing. We can get this God's eye view and this local view of how the players are interacting with our world. How does your dynamic event system respond to that? Beyond just having a force which comes out, puts its bases out, and if you don't take care of them, it puts more bases out.
It actually pays a lot of attention to it, right? Down from what's happening in the overall zone, what is the meta game for the Chosen, what are they doing and why, all the way down to the individual player. How bored are you? The game actually watches and determines okay, well, you've been not doing something for a little while, so I'm going to make you aware of this over here, or I'm going to spawn something close to you that you can go and engage in, right? It will try to anticipate what you're doing, what you're not doing, and push or pull you toward things to help you have a fun and meaningful experience. Like a lot of the feedback that we get right now is because you're in the open world, and yeah, there's stuff to go out there and find, but people want a little more direction. They want to be pushed toward things. They want to know what's happening. They want to feel like I can engage in this and actually make a difference because they can see the effect on the world. And that's really what we're selling with this dynamic world that ebbs and flows based on what the NPCs do, what the players do, and ultimately, how we're going to unfold the game long term and what that means to you as a player. New areas mean new resources, new technology, and new opponents.
Well, if you guys can really deliver on the Left 4 Dead AI director on a massive scale, I think that's an incredible thing, and that's what I was looking for, because we have other games who have claimed to do stuff like this before, right? Like even the Incursion sounds kind of like the thing they were trying to do with Tabula Rasa. It just fell flat. It's an exciting prospect to have the system in place.
We're really pumped. Internally, we are very excited, and we're still building it. We're still in beta, and we're still building content. We're still building experience. But the way we kind of think about it actually is, at the high level, each faction has a general who is an AI general who's directing the war effort. So the Chosen has Graves, and Graves actually has scripting behind him and a whole kind of system and encounter.
Can the players lose?
Oh.
Wouldn't that be interesting?
Yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think? Should you be able to lose? Tell us.
We are very excited to, thanks for bringing that up, because actually we haven't said anything about this, but for a long time, for the last, actually probably year and a half, we've talked on and off about, wouldn't it be interesting to do something that has never ever been done in an MMO before, and give players the opportunity to lose?
Yep.
And we tabled it, and we said, that's kind of a crazy, scary idea. Let's shelve that for now. And as we're continuing to explore the Chosen Warfront more and more, we're thinking actually there's something very compelling there, because players want to be able to make a difference in the world, and for their impact to make a difference, there needs to be something at risk, right? Because if we're just flipping watchtowers all day long, it's nice, it's satisfying, but there needs to be something meaningful behind that purpose.
And that's something I really want to get to. I know we have to jump to a video soon, but I do definitely want to come back and talk about leaving your mark on this world, because that's one of the other things I really liked about the prospect of these dynamic events and this evolving world you guys have got going. But I just want to exit with, well, can the players win?
That's how the game expands.
Good question. Bring it on.
I would love to know, like an MMO that is willing to end when the players achieve victory.
Yep.
What a thing.
Pretty cool.
But all right, so I think we're about to jump to a video that talks about my misgivings from before you did any of the summer patches. So this is actually a great segue into some of the stuff, because a lot of this stuff got at least somewhat addressed with
somewhat. Glad we could reach that.
Right. I can't let you just.
Honestly, right?
There's a lot more you guys got to do. If I just give you a gold medal now,
I hear you, man. Keep it up.
No, I got to hold your feet to the fire. Get us a good game.
Keep us on our toes, man. We want this to be the best game possible.
But yeah, when we come back, I would love to start talking about the leveling system and all these things that got really changed and revamped, and the crafting system to address some of these issues that were cropping up before.
Absolutely.
But yeah, let's take it to video.
Let's take a quick break. We'll be back. Cheers.
Welcome to the third installment of our Firefall discussion. When we were discussing the possibility of doing this series, we told the folks at Red 5 that we would only agree to do it if we could talk openly about the game, the good and the bad. And to their credit, they encouraged it. They told us they wanted their community to understand not just the cool stuff they're working on, but also the major challenges they're struggling with as they develop this game. So today, we're going to talk about what might be the biggest selling point for Firefall, but what is also clearly its greatest danger. With Firefall, Red 5 has opted to go with real shooter-first gameplay. Some of you may remember some of the hybrid shooter MMORPGs that have come out before. Games like Tabula Rasa, where while what you were aiming at sort of mattered, combat was really driven by an underlying set of RPG math. So no matter how good a shooter player you were, it wasn't really going to affect how well you did. Well, those systems never work. They just don't. I don't generally like to make broad, definitive claims like that, but it's almost impossible to make this type of game feel right. If you have a perfect, beautiful headshot lined up, you fire, and you see the little word, miss, pop up over a monster's head, it just feels wrong. It's immensely dissatisfying, and it only serves to completely break whatever immersion the game had managed to establish. So a new system has to be found. The standard answer to this problem, the answer that the Old Republic and many other modern MMOs that use a substantial amount of ranged combat leapt to, was simply to port the purely numerical WoW system to gunplay. While the system may not be satisfying for shooter players, it is a highly functional system. It allows systems designers a lot of levers to balance play, and it constrains combat enough to allow encounter designers to build tight, finely honed, and highly predictable encounters. The answer that Red 5 came to for Firefall, however, was to build true shooter gameplay, to have headshots be headshots, to have combat be fast and frenetic, to let the numbers take a backseat to the shooting in every way. And while that sounds great at first, there's a lot of dangers buried in that system. You see, nobody's really tried a massive open-world shooter before. There's lots of things that come up in an MMO environment that just don't come up in your typical FPS. The first question is, can you manage enough variety of weapons for a much longer-term game than your typical FPS, and still keep the guns feeling good? And on this count, so far the weapons feel great, better than a lot of shooters we've played actually. But we're not even through the beta yet. What happens 6, 8, 12 months down the line? What happens 4 expansions in? But more than that, there's a very distinct reason that no one has tried a massive open-world shooter before. With the multitude of first-person shooters coming to the market today, it's not that no one's thought to bring that to the MMO format before. In fact, you can find a number of massive FPSs that have all the persistence we expect from an MMO. But they tend to be PvP-focused and limit everything to instanced arenas, rather than a truly vast open world where the player can travel between any 2 points. And there's a reason for this. First, interesting FPS AI is hard to build, even in a single-player environment. The difficulty of creating interesting shooter encounters is one of the reasons that you see so many single-player shooters today, limiting the player to very linear paths between set-piece firefights, where the designer knows exactly where the player will enter and where they'll be looking. Putting things in an open world shatters those designer advantages. And on top of that, then you have to figure out how to keep your AI and your encounters engaging, despite the possibility of an uncertain number of players using who knows how many different classes and builds. That is a monumental task, and no matter how much work the people at Red 5 put in, I'm not sure the fights will be able to compete with what most players have come to expect from modern single-player FPSs. I just don't think it's doable. Now hopefully, they'll be able to find some other solution that involves more strategic or more skillful play than you find in your run-of-the-mill corridor shooter these days. And they'll get some mileage out of players getting to choose what challenges they want to tackle, and thus being able to push the limits of what they can do. I'm just not sure how far that goes. They've also got the question of difficulty curve. In an open world environment, how do you make PvE have the right challenge for most of your players, especially at endgame? Say you're a top-notch shooter player. Early on in the game, if things are feeling too easy for you, you can still find an appropriate level of challenge by simply fighting things above your level. But what do you do at endgame? This is actually a problem that many MMOs have, but it's rarely been solved well, and the few cases where it was handled with grace were never in a first-person shooter environment. Lastly, and perhaps most worrisome to me, is the question of exploiting. There's a very odd behavior common amongst MMO players. You'll find that they tend to play in a way that they think is the most efficient, not the most fun. If players think they can get an edge or take advantage of the system by doing something really boring, they'll do it, for hours at a time. It's actually a huge problem in MMO design in general, and unfortunately, it's often reinforced, if not relied upon by poor MMO designers. If you ever had to do a grind quest in an MMO that had you fighting anything but the most interesting monsters you could possibly fight at your level, you've experienced both poor MMO design and the almost irresistible urge to play in the most efficient way possible, rather than the most engaging way possible. Now, building balanced, unexploitable encounters in standard melee-based MMOs is no easy task. But in an environment with range, where combat's much more mobile, I'm not even sure it's possible. Now, they've got some great designers working on the team, like Scott Youngblood, guy who created Tribes. But even with the best designers, you can only solve soluble problems, and I just don't know how you tackle this one in a practical development environment. Remember that in Firefall, you're going to have a jetpack, so you're going to be able to bounce all over the place. The first time someone forgets to perfectly smooth all their geometry, and there's one single triangle sticking out from a cliff face that a player can stand on to shoot enemies without them reaching you or shooting back, all the visceral, exciting combat they've built sort of breaks down. Now, does this mean that Red 5 shouldn't have done this? Not at all. In fact, shooter-first play is probably the only way a smaller company can set themselves apart from the giants like World of Warcraft, and if they can pull it off, it's a risk worth taking. I mean, if they succeed, they'll have brought a whole new genre into the realm of big world MMOs, but man, what a risk. So this is us wishing all of them the best of luck. It makes us nervous. A true shooter MMO is a game we'd love to play, but there's a lot of problems to be solved if we're ever gonna see one. Godspeed, team. Catch you next time.
So clearly, a lot of dangers in a project that has this much new stuff going on in it. But why don't you tell us, we saw a major overhaul to the leveling system, right? We got rid of levels that were just static binary, I'm level 1, I'm level 2, so on, and went to this massive tree. Why?
Well, there are actually a lot of reasons. One, we had an old system that was similar to, it was a more traditional MMORPG leveling system, level 1 through level 15 at the time, and there were a lot of things with that where it didn't give players very many choices at the time, right? You would, at level 4, you'd unlock a new ability, but you also unlocked your second ability slot. So right off the bat, you didn't have a choice, right? It's like, okay, I'll equip that second ability. Level 9, you'd unlock a third ability and a third ability slot. Again, limited choices. We really wanted to actually change the model to give players, a couple things. One, focus more on horizontal progression so that the game is balanced and fair. I mean, we're a skill-based shooter, and that right in it, the fact that we're a skill-based shooter, and back to what I was saying earlier, if we were just doing PvE or just doing PvP, easy. In comparison, easy. But the fact that we want to give you progression, give you those things to chase after and to go for and to unlock and to upgrade and to feel more powerful and to feel better about yourself, that's in direct conflict with a PvP game that's balanced and fair and competitive and skill-based, right? And so going into the tech trees actually gave us several opportunities. And one of them was giving you player choice. You have a tech tree, you can go down, you can unlock the items that you want, the equipment that you want, in the order that you want to unlock them. Another thing that we added, another actually big component that we're still fine-tuning in beta, so there's still work to be done here, but another element that we added was really the idea of equipment constraints. And I don't know if you played around with this much before, but and this is actually a way that we can give players who want to be, so for example, some players who play Recon just want to snipe. They don't care about resonating bolts, they don't care about cryo shot, they don't care about teleport shot. They just want to shoot someone in the face. And so for that person, they really want to upgrade their sniper rifle to be the most badass, most sick sniper rifle in the game. But if they can do that and also have all these abilities, there's some inequality to the player who has a Recon that doesn't have that super souped up rifle. So what we've done is added 3 constraints. All of your equipment requires some combination of weight, energy, and CPU. Different battle frames and different types of equipment might require more CPU or might require more weight. So for example, plating, right, that can give you health regeneration or damage mitigation or even more health, tends to weigh more than it costs CPU and energy. Follow me so far? So in kind of as an analogy, you can think of it in terms of like a mech game, right, where you're really trading off weight for what you're loading, your loadout or containers and slots. You can then advance to a different tier, and our kind of thought with the tiers really was to then allow players who have been playing for a while to kind of find their way and go into battle frames that are more specific to their play style. So let's say I'm playing a Dreadnought, and actually I have a UI up here. I have our internal tech tree on the screen right now if we want to jump to that. I've unlocked for my tier 1. I can go ahead and jump in here. Here's my tech tree for my tier 1 Accord Dreadnought. Now the Accord is the human army, it's the human faction. So you can kind of think of this as a stock military Dreadnought frame. And the frame is really my chassis, what really customizes my equipment to match my playstyle. are the abilities, the servos that modify my movement, my jump height, things like that. My jump jets, which of course modify my jump jet thrust and burn time and so forth. Weapons, and of course the abilities. So you can see I've actually gone through, I've maxed out this battle frame because that's how I roll. And I've unlocked both Tier 2 Dreadnoughts, my Rhino. The Rhino is really focused on more kind of offensive damage. The Mammoth down here is more about survivability. So he has more abilities that tend to protect him from damage, mitigate damage, armor and Thunderdome, things that prevent damage from being taken, as well as plating that gives him more health. And in that way, I, as a player, can make some interesting, cool choices and then go in and customize my equipment, both on what tier I'm playing as well as the specific equipment I have installed.
So it was interesting to me because, as I mentioned earlier, reminded me a lot of the EVE Online system, right? But fascinating because fundamentally it made a lot of sense to me. If you're doing a binary 1, 2, 3, it's a lot harder for it not to be just raw power, whereas your tree allows you to have, as you put it, horizontal or a more lateral set of options for the player, right? So you're growing in options rather than raw power a lot of the time.
That's the goal. That is definitely the design. And so actually in the patch that we're releasing soon, TM, sometime within the next few days.
We've been working on it.
We're actually introducing 10 brand new abilities. 10 brand new abilities. So our beta testers should be pretty excited, hopefully very excited to see the new combat options. And the way we actually approached it was to look at each of the Tier 2 battle frames and to add one new ability for that specific battle frame to really continue to really make each battle frame feel unique and special. So we think about the battle frame chassis kind of like, in a racing car game you have manufacturers and you have models, right? And we have different model cars. You can have the Honda Civic and the Honda Accord, or you can have the Porsche, the Ferrari, whatever, different models within each company. And so within Firefall, we have different corporations. We have Omnidyne, Astrek, and so forth, and they each create different types of equipment.
Do I ever get to go to these corporations? Where are they?
That is certainly on our wish list.
Yes.
Right now, we don't represent the corporations as buildings or cities or places you can go, but that's something that we've talked. Actually, Scott's talked the most about, and really allowing you to kind of go and build up a reputation with each of these corporations to gain access to special nanoprints, which now you can make really cool special ability modules or weapons and things to really customize your battle frame.
Sponsored by them.
The idea is, and really it should be, hopefully it's obvious, but the idea is that we plan to be releasing new battle frame models on a very regular basis. And so a big part of the refactoring for us this summer was the design changes and building a system where you can level up again and again and again, like these different battle frames. By moving XP from a character level to an equipment level, like putting the odometer on the car, it allows us to then release a new car that you now want to race and unlock new things. It extends the choices that players have and allows us to build really custom battle frames for different purposes. For example, we could build a battle frame that is particularly powerful against PvE creatures, right? That's really a great, hey, if you're going to roll out and do some thumpers and collect some resources or go, this is the battle frame to roll with. If you're going to go defend your army harvester from other armies, you want to roll this type of battle frame that's more PvP focused. And in the future at higher tiers, we haven't said too much about the other tiers, but I'll say, we have additional mechanics that we want to add at each tier, such as passives. And so as you go down your tech tree and unlock certain passives, now this battle frame not only has this ability and this piece of equipment, but through optional choices at the cost of energy, weight, and CPU, or again, to keep everything balanced and fair, I can choose to have certain passives. For example,
give us an example.
He's going to give one.
We are waiting with bated breath.
Example income.
For example, imagine for a second, walk with me for a second, we have a new game type for PvP, and that game type happens to look a lot like Capture the Flag. Imagine a battle frame that might have certain bonuses to when you're defending the flag, right? And I may not want to use this battle frame to go capture an enemy flag, but if I'm playing D, that's my role. If I'm playing goalie, whatever, I want to roll this type of battle frame. And so as we spend more time developing the content and building out more battle frames, you can expect to see a ton of player choice so that players can really truly customize their play style. They can pick the equipment and the battle frames that match what they want to do. If you just want to sit back and snipe, no problem. If you want to be more of a support healing class, no problem. If you want to go offensive and DPS, there's an option for you as well.
And to expand on what James has already said, there were a couple of other things, impetuses that we had that really kind of forced us to take a hard look at our leveling system and really make the call on whether or not we wanted to keep it. And so one of the things that we noticed was like the first few levels felt really good. Your rate of reward was, you know, at an acceptable rate. Like I play a few games, get something. Play a few games, get something. Play a few games, play some more games, get something. Play more games, more games, more games, get something, right? Every level that you went up, that next carrot, that thing that you were chasing was further and further away. And when I play games, I want to feel like I'm making positive influence on my character with my time. And when your reward is so far out that it takes you multiple play sessions to achieve that, it becomes a demotivator. Like, I'm not incentivized to log in anymore.
And how does this system change that?
Well, so as we were exploring the concept of putting more rewards in, like I was planning on putting more stuff in at midpoints in a level. And as we were looking at that, we're like, well, what the hell are we using a level for at this point? Do we need it? And the answer was no, right? We didn't need it for two reasons. One, it stretched the rate of reward out to a point that we were not happy with. And the second, you know, as you leveled up, you became more powerful, which was also kind of outside of the goals of our, you know, capped vertical progression. When you're trying to, you know, have a skill-based game, that power curve needs to be at a reasonable level. And that, you know, how we leveled up the game was kind of outside of our original intentions for what we're after.
So, I have a number of questions though. If we're trying to limit vertical progression, how do we get to an end game? What is late game in Firefall? How does it look different than your early game in Firefall?
Well, you have to remember that character progression is only part of what Firefall is.
Sure.
Right? You know, we also have this concept of an army, which is our version of a guild, but the armies themselves feel very much like a character. There are lots of progression opportunities that you and your army mates will get to have fun going out and progressing your character and then using that technology to mess the world up or defend it.
And so the other thing I want to ask about is, if I'm correct, I can buy a battle frame outside of my initial class.
Outside of your initial
you can
class.
Unlock. So
yes.
Right.
You begin as a new character. You have all of our equipment. And this was a change we made in the summer. The equipment's requirements require certain tech certs. There are core military issued tech certifications. And so as a new player, you start with a cert for each of the 5 Accord stock battle frames. From there, you choose your path. You spend time investing in each of those battle frames. You can unlock any of the options you have so long as you have the experience within that battle frame. And each of those lead way to the tier 2 battle frames of that class.
But so, as a player, if I wanted to spend enough time, I could unlock everything and play as anything. I could switch from being a medic for my guild one day to being a tank if a different medic was
actually,
there.
yeah, I mean, and that's a big part of our gameplay too. And really what was a big point for us was for PvP, we wanted to give players the opportunity to change their class on the fly.
Yep.
And so in every one of the spawn rooms, you can go to a battle frame terminal and change any of your battle frames that you have. And that's important so that you can call an audible for your team and change the composition up. If you're playing in a competitive match or you're just playing casually PvP, you might find that everyone jumped in with assaults. Which is a strategy that sometimes works. But a lot of people, you may want to change it up. You may want to throw in a biotech or an engineer to really kind of
it's about player choice.
Yep.
This was actually one of the big questions I had when looking at this over the last probably 8 months. 8 months ago, I was wondering about how you would manage the PvP environment with static classes in a shooter, because there are times when that is just not going to be as.
Yep.
But all right. So
and that was something, that was actually something that we, early on, that was, a big design decision for us was to give you the choice to change, and it was something that we talked a lot about, like from a more traditional MMO standpoint. You've got your character and you develop your character and you advance your character, and in a lot of games there's a lot of replayability of the experience with different class. Trying a different class, you create your alt, you go back through the kind of the journey, going through the quests that you've already completed. But with our game, because we're a world that's dynamic, and we don't have a level 1 through 10 zone and a level 11 through 20 zone that you would have to be replaying, or we'd want you to be replaying. And so by being able to change up your battle frames on the fly, you really can maximize your experience as a player. You can advance your technology and share it between your classes. You can gain access to resources and be one character instead of having to have 10 or 15 characters.
And if I'm playing the end game or a late game section with my army or whatever, the experience I get there I can use to purchase things in a totally different battle frame that I haven't leveled up yet. Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Because you're a member of that army.
Right.
It's frame independent.
Okay, so that was actually a series. As much as I want to grill you, that was actually a group of decisions which I was like, that makes a ton of sense now that you've done it. But let's talk about crafting. Right, because we're going to get to grilling you in just a sec. As soon as we get through crafting, so you should stall as much as possible, I got a tough one for you. But talk to me about crafting.
Tough one.
Right.
Oh. Bring it on.
All right. I do. I have the thing that players and developers usually see the farthest from each other on.
Let me just say this. I mean, we're a bunch of gamers in Southern California. We all play games. It's actually one of our company values to be passionate and love games. That's it. There's not a single person in our company that doesn't play games.
All right.
And because of that, like what we're doing here is we're building our dream game. And I'll tell you right now, we may not have all the answers. We may not get everything perfect right now. But we are working at it, and we continue to take feedback from people, and we'll improve on the experience. And this is the game we all dream about going home and playing, and we play often. We
do go home and play.
So I guess then we'll just segue right into it rather than go into the crafting system. We'll get back to crafting. So how are you monetizing? How are you selling me something that's worth buying without making it exploitive?
So the monetization question has come up a lot ever since we announced the game in 2010 at PAX, and we made the decision to go free to play at that point in time. And it's amazing how much the landscape has changed in 2 years. Because at that time, very few games in the Western market, in Europe and North America, had gone free to play. And really the only big mainstream AAA title at the time was League of Legends, and they were still in their first year and really still building momentum, and there's still a big kind of question mark, at least to the outsiders, on like how this model works. But in Asia, free-to-play gaming had been around for I think 5 or 6, 7 years. It had been really building momentum over the previous half a decade or so. And so anyhow, long story short, we made the decision early on, and it was a hard decision to make at the time. Right now, it'd be easy. Right now, if we were going to start a new company, start a new game, whatever, it'd be like, yeah, free to play, that's the way to go. Because we've now seen games across the board that have been hugely successful that way. We've seen Dungeons & Dragons Online, Lord of the Rings Online, Team Fortress 2, recently Star Wars The Old Republic. That's the way of the future. And it's a beautiful model for gamers because it forces developers to make fun, compelling games, right? Because guess what? If the game sucks, I'm not going to stick around and play it.
Gone are the days of a $60 box copy that you take back to GameStop for the $9 return.
So I completely agree.
So hold on, let me continue.
Right, because we haven't actually answered the question
Let me continue though. So our philosophy has been very much, as gamers, our philosophy has been build a kick-ass game and we'll be able to monetize it. It's the old Field of Dreams movie. Remember Field of Dreams? If you build it, they will come. At the end of the day, the most elaborate monetization strategy in the world means nothing if the game is not fun.
Yep.
Do you agree with this?
And I mean, my first thing about monetization is always build something worth buying.
And that's been our approach. And so then when we get into monetization, we actually sat down as a team and we kind of put this
anywhere.
We put this off for a while because all that mattered was fun. We focused on the core experience, the core game. We focused on expanding the game. We focused on our engine, our technology, our ability to deploy the game and get it out to people, and so forth. It wasn't until this last August that we finally built and deployed the ability for players to give us money. And you know what? It was a really exciting time for us. Up until that date, the only way that our community, our amazing community, was able to support us was to send beer to our office.
Which we still like.
Or whiskey or wine or whatever. We received tons and tons of gifts from our community. And thank you, our amazing community, thank you. But we were ready to say, okay, let's take this step and start beta testing our store. So we're not done figuring out the monetization strategy. But our approach to it was this. We sat down as a team and we brainstormed every single potential idea, however crazy the idea might be, that we could immediately come up with on how to monetize Firefall. And we actually had a list of 163 items that we divided up into 5 different categories. And this was a little while ago. I believe the categories were power. We could sell power. We could sell the BFG 10,000 that someone could spend $10 to win the match. That would make us some money. We could sell coolness or cosmetics, aesthetics. We call it coolness, right? And this is anything from a voice pack to custom execute emotes or particle effects or haircuts, tattoos, decals, war paint, etc. Early access to things or special kind of additional services. One of the kind of philosophies we had early on was we didn't want to gate people from experiencing the game. Right? We're going free to play. The big reason we went free to play at the time, the decision was really based around making the game accessible to friends, right? Making it easy for people to play the game. Because we believe, and this is our assertion, but we believe the most fun we've ever had playing games has usually been when we're playing with our friends.
So, I'm a big believer in the free-to-play model, right? Clearly, you don't have to sell me on the free-to-play model. But I want to know how we're doing in Firefall, because we just talked about leveling system. Clearly, one of the things you could be selling is your next group of frames, right? But the question to me is, how do you make something that's worth buying that the player also doesn't have to buy, right? How do you make it non-exploitive and yet still have that value add?
And that's hard to do, right? And we spend a lot of time thinking about it, and we have an incredible team focusing on monetization and thinking about how it impacts the game, how it impacts, the bottom line, how it impacts, and goal number one, and this is for real. I mean, if you were sitting in our design discussions or internal meetings, you would hear it yourself, that the first thing we always think about is the fun.
But to me, the key is, right, I've worked on a lot of free-to-play projects, and the problem with a lot of the games that you see today, the games that you see like Star Wars Galaxies who are trying to retrofit, is they weren't designed for that monetization, right? Nobody was having that in mind when they were building this stuff out. Monetization itself should be fun, right? You should feel joy for putting some dollars in and getting something out. And so that's why I want to know, how is it being built in parallel? How are we thinking about it at this point? So that way, when it comes time, we're not just taking things that taking items and say, oh, this one should be for dollars, right? How are we building that system in so that way it's part of our game design?
Well, and this goes back to what I was getting at, is we broke down these ideas into 5 different categories. And right off the bat, we said, look, we're a skill-based game. We're not going to sell power.
Sure.
So we took the BFG 10,000 off the table. We're not selling that, and we will never sell that. An area that we really think that we can monetize, and so far, our players have given us the feedback that, yes, this is okay with them. Our community has told us we're totally okay with this, and that's selling convenience, right? Saving you time. And this really, I think about it in terms of, in many ways, I think about it like, if I'm a student, I'm on summer vacation, and I can play the game all day, every day, I have more opportunity to go out and collect more resources, to spend more time finding the rare resources, to take advantage of time. For guys like many of us here that have full-time jobs, and we work 40, 50, 60, 70, sometimes 80-hour weeks, we don't have as much time. And so in that case, it's perfectly acceptable in our minds for us to sell items of convenience. For example, thumping is a major part of the game. Resource collection is a big part of the game. We want Firefall to really focus on resources and refining your resources and building up new cool things for your personal battle frames as well as for your army bases and so forth. If I want to spend a little bit of money to get a diamond drill bit for my thumper so that I can collect resources faster or carry more resources on my thumper, we don't see there being any problem with that. And the feedback that we've heard so far from a community is that's a fair thing to sell, and that people would spend money on that, but they're not going to have to spend money on it.
So I would love to dig into this further, but it sounds like we've got some things to give away in the Tiki Lounge. So let's head back over there.
Do it, man. Tiki time!
Woo, free stuff.
What's up?
Woo. It's hot.
Is it? Sweating almost as much as James is.
I know. I'm gonna have to get James a member of Team Sweat Rag.
Yeah. Woo. You have cards? You have member cards?
Huh?
You have membership cards for that?
I have membership cards for Team Sweat Rag. It's a towel. It's a rag. You just carry it around and be like, oh, do you need my card? There you go, and you got all your information just printed on the. I mean, it's gross but efficient.
Is there a membership cost?
A lot of perspiration. A whole lot of it. We have a quota to meet. A gallon a week.
That's easy.
Team Moist Drag is what they're calling it.
I don't approve of that at all. In fact,
I'm Tony Reyes, and I do not approve this message.
It grosses me out. Me out.
Moist grosses you out, but
it's a disgusting word.
But not the fact that you're rubbing your face down and then putting it on my table right next to my drink.
Now that is a little gross. I'll give you that. But the word moist is disgusting. I think it should just be taken out of the dictionary.
Moist.
Moist and barf. Ugh. I hate it. Those two words, they're done to me. Webster, make something happen. Pull some strings.
Webster.
Get him out of there. He's a person and he's watching this.
So, because us gives away prizes, I guess, right?
Sooner or later. We can just keep talking, though.
I could talk for hours.
I just wanted to throw it out there that that Too Easy of Team Epsilon is throwing the razor back in the pool. He is donating the razor back in there.
That's very kind of you, Too Easy.
Yeah, Too Easy. Thank you. You're Too Easy. That was.
I heard a ghost voice behind.
Who was that?
Oh, weird.
Oh my gosh, we got a visitor
We got
here.
a Chuck abductor.
Where's my free laptop?
Laptop?
Well,
Laptop.
we got a sweat rag for you.
Oh, that's just as
Right over there,
good.
give it to him.
This right?
Do you want to give away the razor?
Do I want to give away?
You want to?
The mouse?
The mouse.
Yeah. Here,
mouse
hold
pad.
on 1 second.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Laptop.
Look at this. Yeah, we got the Tiki Time Company. So
All
yeah,
right.
we've got the Type-In mouse
Awesome.
and the Goliathus mouse pad, all from Razer, and we're giving it away right now because Too Easy gave it back.
What's the contest?
Whatever you want.
Oh, so I think you have to type in 7 candy bars, and they have to be real candy bars. You can't make
7
up.
candy bars.
Where?
In what?
In Twitch.
In Twitch.
In Twitch.
Yeah,
Oh my
7
God.
candy bars.
7 real candy bars.
That's a really good one.
This is gonna be ridiculous.
Can we just talk about how he's been here for 30
You
seconds?
can't just type the word 7 candy bars. You have to name.
7
Name
different
7 different
candy
candy
bars.
bars.
Different candy bars. Go.
But really, he's been here 30
You guys are-
seconds
no,
and has a
you're
way better
you're
contest.
Don't type 7.
Reese's Pieces is not a candy bar.
Reese's is not a candy
Hershey bar.
Hey, oh, that's one for
M&Ms are not a
free.
candy bar.
It's one for free. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, we got one right here. Snickers, Mars, Twix, Zero, Almond Joy, Kit Kat, Baby Ruth.
Is that 7? I think that's it.
Zen G-Ped.
All right.
Zingped.
Nice work.
That doesn't make any sense.
Zing.
7 candy bar
Zingped.
mouse pads.
You were
and
the-
mouse coming
You
your
were
way.
the one that did that.
Yeah, Zingped. Send me a message on Twitch, and we'll get in communication. It's
The cheese.
The cheese.
Awesome.
THACHEEZ. The cheese. Cool. That was
All right.
fun. That was a good one.
My work here is
That
done.
was tough. You guys, that was, now they're all coming up with them.
Yeah, go take a break.
Google so quickly, right?
Yeah. Google 7 candy bars now.
Go fat people.
We're sorry, Germans, that there's only 4
Put your arms
candy
down,
bars
please.
there.
Jeez.
I'm gonna take that like you don't think I'm fat. So that's how I'm gonna take that. Not that you think I'm a sweaty mess under there. So that's how I'm gonna take it, and that's how I'm gonna choose to think about it. Anyway, Zingped, you're getting this.
Zinghead.
Jing.
Okay,
No, there's
now
no
that
need to
we've
insult them.
repeated a
We've
prize, let's
repeated
go
this.
ahead and
You've saved me.
yeah, nice job. So t-shirts. Let's do some shirts.
T-shirts. Okay. Cool.
You know what? Let's just pick from the same people that did.
Yeah.
Scroll up a little bit, and I'm just
That
going
makes
to pick
sense.
some people. Diabetics hate this chat. Yes, you do.
Come on. Really?
Androsi.
Androsi?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, you got one.
Androsi, you're getting a t-shirt. Send me a message, Androsi.
Consili.
And Consili, you're also getting a t-shirt. Please send me a message. Once again, my username is The Cheese. Send me a message.
So it's Consili and
Androsi.
Androsi.
2 S's, 2
the
I's.
cheese.
Perfect. Send it to The Cheese. Yeah.
Nice. Okay, now we have
We've got one more big gift. And this actually has some pretty big significance.
Oh, no?
No, we're not using.
No,
There's no beanies.
There's no
actually.
beanies in there. That's kind of weird.
That was.
Well,
No.
I was doing a drum roll actually.
Oh, okay.
You good? We good?
No.
We okay? All right. We have got the last. Both of you. All right. There's no respect for me over here.
Put it next to my drink again.
I don't even get a chair. I've got to stand
You have
here.
the whole couch.
That may be so, but not on screen. They don't know that. They probably think I just are standing on spikes over here and being whipped hourly.
He's being whipped.
Hourly.
Like we can tell time.
Okay. We've got the last Red 5 swag bag here for you.
The last one forever?
The last one
Of all
for
time.
all time.
All time.
For the
Because it's not like we
Firefall
can just
Fest
reprint
history.
swag. That's impossible.
Nope.
That is impossible.
No more of that.
We have to build that tech.
Actually, we can't make more of the miniatures.
That's true.
Well, not unless we want a big order. And you guys wouldn't want a big order. It's not like you guys want to buy the
no
miniatures.
one wants
No.
miniatures. Like,
But
How do you want to give it away, Mr. Prize Guy?
okay, I want to give this away on Twitch again.
Twitch.
wow.
So Twitch, get ready.
Twitch, this is the last time that you're going to get a chance at a swag bag.
They're asking if the bag is moist.
Okay, Twitch, that just got changed to Twitter. Now we're giving it away on Twitter, okay? I hope you're happy.
I have an idea if we're going to give it away on Twitter.
Okay.
We just sent out a tweet from Red 5 Studios.
Did we?
Okay.
Promoting Epsilon 2 Easy at Epsilon 2 Easy for throwing the Razorback. Maybe we can respond to that tweet with
Okay.
something.
With what? Hurry up.
Respond to that last tweet that at Red 5 Studios at Red 5 Studios just posted. Respond to that with the hashtag Moist Sucks. Moist Sucks.
He's a tricky one.
That's
They're already responding, but not with the right. There we go.
Sorry, it's got to be on Twitter. Twitch, you've already ruined your chances.
He hates you now.
That's fine. That's fine. Moist Sucks.
Okay, there we go.
There we go.
We'll do one more refresh.
For the last swag bag, you know what's inside. You've got a beer mug, a coffee mug,
I'm gonna
a shirt,
scroll, you
miniatures,
pick, right?
postcards.
The third column.
Scroll, all right,
you pick.
and yeah, go.
Stop.
We're gonna go 8-Bit Tavern.
What? That's pretty cool.
Right?
What?
Yeah, there was a first that just like popped into me.
Girl.
8-Bit Tavern, you getting the last swag bag, girl. That's right. Hey, last swag bag. Hey, yeah. Oh,
That's number 2, folks.
And I'm
number 2.
Gonna go.
Please.
You know what?
I think that's it for us.
I apologize.
Don't forget to sign up for the AMD PC by liking the extra credits post on our Facebook page. I'll link it in Twitter chat as well. But go ahead and enjoy these videos, and we'll be back with more extra credits. See you.
Mission complete.
Are we filming right now?
No, I think we're good.
Okay.
I'm James McCauley. I'm the Vice President of Development here at Red 5 Studios and unofficially the team cheerleader. I've been here since the beginning days, early 2006, and it's been an incredible journey to see the company grow and expand, and we're now at the point where we're nearing launch for Firefall. So when we announced Firefall, we also announced a very different development process for us, and it was one where we very much wanted to include and incorporate our community into the development of Firefall. A lot of gamers have asked us how they could support us. I think they've had so much fun that they want to support us. They want to support Firefall. They've been asking for months and months how they can do so, and now is finally an opportunity for them to do that. And we thought, what better way than to offer a Founders Pack that allows you to buy a little piece of history, to become a founding member, to have that name next to your character for life, to receive special goodies in-game, and to begin that ongoing relationship with Red 5 and with Firefall. Gamers should buy Founders Packages for multiple reasons. One, it's showing your support to Red 5 and for Firefall, and it's giving yourself an opportunity to really jump in and to contribute to the future of this game and this company. Well, so we started with one package. We wanted to give players an opportunity to support Red 5 and Firefall, but we also didn't want to exclude anyone. We wanted to give everyone an opportunity to jump in the water and to join us on this journey, and we wanted to open it up. At each increased tier, we provide a whole bunch of new stuff for you. If you purchase any of the 3 levels of Founder packages, you will receive priority beta queuing. This means as we regularly send out new beta invites and try to grow the beta and invite new players to join us, you'll be at the front of the line. So if you're eager to get in and play Firefall, this is a great way for you to jump in front of the line and to join us in beta. At the base level of the Ensign, we offer you a whole bunch of in-game currency. We give you a special decal and founding member title. We also give you a Tiki mask because, we're all about the Tiki theme, and we thought we'd share a very personal thing. This is not a Firefall theme, it's a Red 5 theme. And so you'll get a Tiki mask that you can actually equip on your character in-game and show off that you're a founding member. We also offer you a permanent 5% XP boost at Ensign, which we think is pretty cool. It's a way for us to say thanks for your support and to give you something cool for the lifetime of your character and your account. Moving on to the Lieutenant, we increase the amount of in-game currency you get. We have a special Lieutenant decal that will show up in-game. You can place it on your battle frame and look super cool. You can also sport it on your forum avatar. We give you an increased XP boost, a 10% XP boost. First, it's the first time I've ever seen this in any game. We introduced the idea of a squad XP bonus, so that whenever you join up with your friends, you meet up with strangers, as long as they're in your squad, they're going to reap the rewards of you being a founding member and have a 5% XP boost to everything they earn. In addition, we're introducing the ability for you to reserve your army name, which is a very important thing. It's your online clan, it's your guild, and now you have early access to being able to pick your name, so choose carefully. At the commander level, we add a brand new Tiki mask, as well as the ability for you to give out 9 Ensign Tiki masks to your friends. We're a very social game. We want to make it easy for you to recruit your friends to come play with you and to join you on this journey, and we thought it'd be cool for you to have a gift to give them. We also bump up the XP bonus, so you have a permanent 15% XP boost, as well as a 10% squad boost. You also get our very first in-game vehicle. It's a limited time offering only as part of the commander package that you'll gain access to the Chopper LGV.
Let's go!
The Founders Package gives you some ridiculously cool things, and our goal when we were defining the Founders Package was seriously to offer so much value that people would be like, why would I not want to support this and get all these goodies? So you can find out more about the Founders Packs and purchase one at firefallthegame.com. It's a limited time offering. We're only going to be selling these for a short period of time during our kind of founding period of the game. So if you're interested, check it out today. Look at the different packages and see which package makes sense for you. And join us on this journey.
Hey everybody, welcome back. I'm James Portnow from Extra Credits, and we got some new guests on our stage, one of whom you should be very familiar with, but I'll let you guys introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm James McCauley. I'm Vice President of Development here at Red 5 Studios. And
I'm Mark Kern, CEO and Chief Creative Officer.
There we go. So, moving on.
This is Mark Kern, and he's someone you already know. He's the chief vision behind the creative force that we are, and I'm a writer on the team.
No, that means it's all my fault. I can't have that.
Totally his fault.
This is Tim McCauley, actually. And you may not know that Tim is actually James's brother. And he's been doing a lot of writing on our show. If you guys read the Dredge story, he wrote the Dredge story. I know you guys really love that. And it's been really great helping me sort of like wrap my head around the universe of Firefall.
All right, so let's start right there with the universe of Firefall. What are we exploring? What ideas or emotions? What is the core things that that play out in the universe of Firefall?
Tim, you want to?
Sure. So it's 23rd century Brazil. One of the big things about this world is it's very heavy advanced science and sci-fi and heavy tech. And so we've got concepts of terraforming, we've got concepts of geoengineering, and that's something we really wanted to bring as a heavy sci-fi element to it. We've used the inspiration of authors like Charles Stross and Ray Kurzweil to kind of give us a heavy level of sci-fi to the world. That's one of our themes. We've got the melding and the chosen. That's a major theme, obviously, to our world.
No secrets.
Yeah, I know. That's what's a little bit tricky here. Let's see.
We just reached that interesting point in the manga where the people are about to learn some things about the story.
Yeah.
And so we're trying to like tiptoe around it and not mention them on the show.
The good news is that there is a place that we're going, that we do know, right? That we know what's behind.
Just like Lost, we know exactly where we're going.
This will not be a snow globe ending.
So, all right.
So one thing that we should add is what some of the themes are is, we've got people that are rebuilding. They're coming back. We've got incredible energy source with Crystite. And so people are, they're both at war and they're also trying to rebuild their lives. And it's obviously set in this paradise setting.
One thing that really fascinated me was, I read Ray Kurzweil's The Singularity, right? And if you've read his work, it's really about how humanity is coming together and will soon achieve a technological prowess that will allow them to basically transcend their mortal bodies. That they'll be able to upload themselves into a digital universe and live forever. But it starts with sort of like the interconnectedness of people. And so in our game, we have this Internet 2.0 of the future, which is called SIN, the Shared Information Network, where everyone walks around and they're just wired for connectivity, basically, from the very start. They have like readouts. It's like Google Glass. You look at something, except it's on your retina, and you can see data and information about it. That's a very interesting thing. It's like, how does society approach that? And you have kind of like two approaches in Firefall. One is through the technological aspect, and another one is through affinites. If you read the manga, it's really about how a certain portion of humanity, if their minds are amplified in a certain way, are able to make a mental connection with each other and actually share their thoughts at a more intimate level than just say if we had Sin and we were just bouncing messages to each other.
So, at Extra Credits, we just greenlit a game called Mental Drift, and the whole reason we greenlit it was because they did a really good job of delivering their narrative through gameplay, right? So how does the actual play, because you spend so much more time in a game than listening to the quest text or what have you, doing the actions. How does the play of Firefall help deliver this narrative?
Well, I think the first thing we had to do was just try to get rid of, quest logs and quest text. In World of Warcraft, we gave you the same objectives as EverQuest did in terms of it was still go out and kill things in order to level up and get XP. But we applied a veneer of story to it, and we actually, at that time, when the game first came out, forced you to read it. You couldn't skip past the text because we did an interesting experiment. We actually had the text where it was skippable in the beginning, and internally people were complaining about there was no story in the game, and they didn't want a story in the game. And so we disabled that, and you had to literally sit through this teletyping thing, and we didn't change anything else, and suddenly the same people who were complaining about there was no story in the game were suddenly like, wow, I totally love the situation that's happening in Elwyn Forest right now and everything else. They paid attention to it. But after a while, you see through the veneer, and people demanded that they skipped quest text, and they were just jumping down to the last bullet points. Well, that didn't last too long. That wore thin, but it served its purpose in the beginning. It got you to pay attention to the story. What we're trying to do is to actually have story be asynchronous in a way. So, and a lot of it came, honestly, from inspiration from BioShock. The recordings that were left around, things like this, is like, hey, what if quests came over your SIN mechanism, and you didn't have to stop moving to get the information, that you could still be moving around the world and getting this information sent to you.
But that's, in some ways, still plot, right? That's still quest text.
Yeah.
What does the things I'm doing in the world mean?
Okay, so there is, all right, this is a lengthy answer.
All right, let's get out.
One of the primary things is I say, listen, you have to exploit the medium of video games, right? And if you look at books, books had to describe everything to you. I mean, Charles Dickens was very famous for his long, eloquent prose about, cakes on a table, for instance. Of course, he was being paid by the word, too, but I mean, it painted a very vivid picture and kind of gave us a style of description in literary form that is still used today. When you get to a visual medium, it's more about show, don't tell, right? In a very literal sense, in that the dialogue doesn't tell you what's going on. You can see on screen what's happening. In video games, we have show, don't tell, which I think most games do to a very good degree now with cutscenes and everything else. But they're missing the real aspect that I think we should be exploiting, which is the game is interactive, right? So our special dimension of storytelling is do, don't tell, right? And so I think a great example of that is the beginning of Half-Life 2, where how do you know that this is an oppressive police state? Well, you come out and there's a little robot taking pictures of you. There's an Orwellian poster on the wall. But as soon as you try to interact with a guard, what does he do? He hits you with a baton, right? He beats you down. You just learned a lesson you're never going to forget. And they never had a narrative that's saying, in the 20th century, this is totalitarian society. They just showed you, and then through interaction with as you explored and tried different things, it taught you. Well, that's what I'd like to explore. And to be honest, we're so caught up in the mechanisms of the game right now, we haven't done what we call our lore pass, right? And our lore pass is something that we're putting on, and we're doing it in a couple ways. One is using Sin as the mechanism, that sort of retina overlay, so that you can explore the world. And if you want to get details on stuff, you can get sort of like these interactive tags and displays and collect them in the world. And I know Scott's very eager to tie a game mechanic to that. You want to talk a little bit about what we're going to do with the encyclopedias and stuff?
Yeah, and so exploring the world is fun, but I also want it to have a purpose. And so one of the features that we came up with the game is called the Visual Interactive Database. Now this is something you've seen this mechanic before in games. I think Metroid Prime was one of the first one, but you have the ability to go out and grab information about that by taking a picture of it. And that information can then be used to drive you to new and further content. And that's just one example of how going out, taking a picture of a Bronodon, for example, could then lead you to, oh, well, now you need to go get some Bronodon samples, right? Maybe there's some emergent gameplay around your interaction with that Bronodon that doesn't involve necessarily shooting him in the face. And so these styles of things really increase the lore of the world, right? Because going there, learning about the Bronodon, you go to that Bronodon's environment, you see what he's doing, the more you know about it, the more then you can use that Bronodon to your advantage. Let's say Bronodons are afraid of thumpers, for example. Knowing that Bronodons are afraid of thumpers
Did we just reveal something?
Maybe, I don't know. Sounds like a cool idea. But if Bronodons were afraid of thumpers and you could use your thumper to now influence those Bronodons to do something for you, that seems pretty cool to me.
One other example is, our whole world is powered by crystite generators, right? Which is a rare element that fell in a meteor shower that populated the whole planet with these microshards of crystite that you can use to power the world. We could tell you this, but we've kind of held off on telling you this because we'd rather have you go and actually assemble a crystite generator and use it to power something, and therefore teach you that whole thing by the act of you doing it.
Yep. So just getting back real quick to the voiceovers on the quest text, right? These audio logs. How do you keep the player both cognizant of that and involved in the shoot? Because a lot of times I had a group of people, I watched a group of people play, and they would totally miss it because they were busy shooting stuff and it was a high energy environment, and the quest text would play and they were busy staying alive.
Yep. That's an issue we're dealing with now, is that if you can, because we don't lock you in place, because you can run off and just start shooting stuff. So we've actually had to dial it back a lot. So we used to have long expository, and we still do in the first beginning of the Copa chain missions. And we've had to, in the trans-hub missions, really cut it back to the bare minimum to try to just engage you right away. But if I had to choose between the two evils right now, I kind of like where this is going, and I want to find a way to improve it and make it work so that people don't miss that.
Well, and that's the thing, because cutting down on that freedom would be unfortunate, but it is certainly a question going forward, because I had many players who, when I asked them what the narrative was, all right, so beyond that, it came up earlier, and so now that both of you guys are here, why Brazil?
Why not? I mean, first of all,
right, I love Brazil.
World Cup,
Rio is one of my favorite cities.
Well, Brazil's on the rise, and it's time. Actually, in our opinion, in my opinion at least, I think Brazil's mostly been visited with favelas and slums, and we saw it great in Max Payne. We've seen it in Call of Duty games, but I think it's time to show another side of Brazil, and I think that everyone felt that South America, Latin America deserves to have a different presentation.
We were looking for a culture that had been underutilized in video games. Everyone's kind of done an Asian theme, or everyone's kind of done, there's all these themes that have been explored, but South America, Latin history and flavor, I think is something that is untapped, right, largely.
And it's so rich in culture and color and music and
so that was something that we wanted to explore. I said, hey, maybe this will feel fresher. But to be honest, it's like, it doesn't feel Brazilian enough to me yet. So, I recently sent an email to the team. I said, help me make this feel like Brazil. So we're doing an art pass on some of the signs to get Portuguese on there. We've had music for a while, some Brazilian music ready. We're going to start floating that in. It's all part of that, like I said, lore pass, that because we're a small team, we've been focusing so much on the mechanics that it's like, okay, it's like I said, don't worry about the lore, because we can come in as long as you know that we have all this background stuff. Read the story site, read these articles, and work with Tim and the others, and keep it within these sort of like themes, and we'll still be able to go in and make this pass through the world. So that's the part that I'm really excited about. I mean, I've been, working on this show, and I've been kind of away from the game for a while, so I'm eager to come back and start working on lore in the game again.
Yep.
It actually was a fascinating choice to me because, as I said, I do a lot of work down in Brazil, and everything from the imported African religion, I think, has strong ties to. There's some interesting capoeira moments that I think could, for the slash dance, like that's something we've never seen, right? And then on the flip side, there are a lot of tensions that currently exist in Brazil that may play out in interesting ways in an environment more constrained, right? With less total overall resources. So I thought it was an interesting choice. I think it gives you the vibrant color palette, but something I'd love to come back to. For right now, let's pop to the video. And when we get back from the video, I think one of the things that you guys will all see in the video is even when we're trying to convey the lore, right now there's a lot of jargon. There's a lot of proper nouns we got going on, and how I want to ask about how you're going to ease the player into those. But let's go. Let's see this one. Woo!
All right, I think it's about time we got around to telling you about Firefall's premise. As we mentioned in the first of these videos, a lot of the story is going to be player-driven. As such, it's difficult to guess where the story will go once the game starts, but we can fill you in on the world you'll be stepping into. Like most things about Firefall, the setting and the narrative are a little different. Many of the elements should seem pretty familiar to you, but they're playing around with those conventions in some interesting ways. One of the things we've liked about Firefall from the start was that these decisions weren't just afterthoughts. They were a conscious design effort to tie the narrative and the mechanics, the world building and the world itself, together. It's always nice to see a studio that doesn't do the typical thing of orcs and elves? Yep, works for me. Let's get started. So let's talk about the setting. The place? Earth. The time? The intermediate future. It's a world that's been ravaged by two major calamities. Earth's population has been decimated, and then driven to the very edge of extinction. And yet, this isn't your usual grim future setting. Yes, it is an apocalypse, to be sure, but it's not the road or anything. Firefall asks the question, what if we dealt with a catastrophe of this scale rationally? Or at least as rationally as we were able to? What if society didn't devolve into backstabbing outlaw gangs and roving cannibals? What if things stayed as normal as possible in a world under siege? Now, I love me a good Fallout-style apocalypse story, and I'll reread The Postman any day, but this reversal of the standard trope is a rather nice change of pace, and it actually creates a much more vibrant palette for the Firefall story than the apocalypse cliches we're used to. And speaking of a vibrant palette, this setting allows Firefall to escape the gunmetal gray and modern war brown we've come to associate with space and shooters, respectively. The game begins in Brazil, with all the vivacity and life you might expect from such a setting. More, in fact, but that's something you'll find out when you jump in. Okay, so what about the story itself? You've seen some screenshots of people dashing around in powered armor, but why? What's going on in Firefall? Well, a lot more than we can cover in 3 minutes, and we wouldn't want to spoil the surprises anyway, but here's a quick summary. The story begins well before the player steps into a mechanized suit. It really begins with the eponymous event, the Firefall. A few centuries from now, Earth is hit with a cataclysmic event, a meteor strike of unheard-of proportions. Much of the world's population is destroyed in the days of raining fire caused by an enormous meteorite breaking apart in the upper atmosphere and peppering the globe with its fragments. At first, it looks like this calamity is going to push man back into the Dark Ages, but then something miraculous is found amongst the ruins. Crystite. Turns out, the meteor was made of an alien mineral, a mineral which would come to be called crystite, which turned out to be an unimaginable energy source, an energy source which would dwarf anything found on Earth. This nearly unlimited energy causes a renaissance amongst the survivors of the Firefall. Manual labor is nearly eliminated. Manufacture is replaced by molecular printing. Humanity spreads out and starts to rebuild the ecosystem of the globe with advances in genetics and biology. And finally, man looks to the stars. We know crystite must have come from somewhere, and so we as a species begin to track it. Humanity is able to trace crystite's unique signature to a planet not too distant from Earth. We begin by sending ships there through conventional means, but even a nearby solar system is unimaginably far in human terms, so we decide to try something else, something a bit more bold, something truly in the spirit of this new renaissance. We try to move faster than light. The Arclight, the greatest ship ever constructed, a ship the size of cities, is built to make the first interstellar jump. It's powered by an incredible reserve of crystite, perhaps the highest concentration mankind's ever assembled. But as the jump begins, something goes horribly wrong. The ship itself starts to burn as parts of it are enveloped by a strange cloud. Wherever the Arclight was meant to go, and however it was meant to get there, it instead lets something from the other side through. The ship itself careens out of control, on a crash course straight towards Rio de Janeiro. In its final moments, Admiral Nostromo, the commanding officer on board, slams it into Fortaleza instead, in an attempt to minimize casualties. With the city of Fortaleza itself nearly destroyed, and the greatest effort of humanity sitting as a smoking wreck in the waters off the coast, humanity finds itself beset by a new, even greater tragedy. The strange gas that the Arclight brought with it begins to envelop the globe. All communication with areas it's subsumed are lost, and even local communication is disrupted. And this is where you pop in. The surviving Admiral Nostromo has declared martial law around Fortaleza. Strange creatures are coming out of the fog, now called the Melding, to attack what remains of Fortaleza. Right now, it seems like the massive reserves of crystite on the Arclight are somehow keeping the Melding at bay, but every day the attacks from the creatures pouring forth from the Melding get worse, and every day the fog rolls a little bit closer to town. No one's in full panic mode yet, but something's gotta be done. You have been recruited to help safeguard what's left of humanity, as well as to collect crystite to hold the Melding at bay. But what makes this story compelling isn't just the setup. It's the questions it leaves you, the player, to answer. Is this the end of humanity? Are there other surviving towns out there? What is the Melding? And who are the strange beings that come out of this all-consuming fog? What is crystite? How does it function? Why isn't the Melding overrunning Fortaleza? Is there any way to drive the Melding back and restore Earth? And what exactly happened to the Arclight anyway? And where did the Firefall really come from? It's a story built around questions and mysteries for the player to unravel, and that participatory element makes it far more compelling. This is what makes it need a game to be told properly, rather than being better suited to a book. We've seen the story documents. It's all there, waiting to be unearthed by players living the narrative of this game. Of course, all of this is dependent on Red 5's ability to execute on this idea, but so far it's looking pretty good. And this setup, coupled with the player-driven nature of the world, is one of the things that I'm most excited about for Firefall. Fingers remain crossed. See you next time.
So you guys all just got to see that video, and in that video I think we had Arclight, Nostromo, crystite, Fortaleza. We had tons of stuff. You don't have the advantage of orcs and elves, right? Everybody, or a lot of people have a cultural reference for orcs and elves. You have all this new stuff to introduce it to. How do we prevent getting lost in jargon? Because right now the beta opens, right, and you have boom, 6 months later from nothing to this block of text that has all those terms in it in 5 sentences. How, when this thing really goes live, when we really get through, how do we bring the player into this world and get them used to all this new jargon we have?
I wish I knew. I've been struggling with that. I started off by trying to trickle feed it to you, and it ended up in these long, drawn-out things where you'd get through all of Copacabana and you maybe learn 3 words. Mm-hmm. And you know, that's a huge challenge, and we struggled with that. At the old company on StarCraft. It's like, hey, that's going to be sci-fi. You look at that building, you don't know it's a barracks. You don't know what it is. And so one thing that they try to do was to always tie it back to relatable characters. So, you had, the humans being very kind of like coarse and grainy and with issues that that people could get the grips on and then hang the jargon off of that. With us, we have a technology base I think is a little farther ahead than that. We have molecular printing, we have Ares teams, we have Stiz bubbles and all this stuff. I'm hoping that we can do a lot of this through the SYN mechanism. That this is something that it's sort of like VH1 pop-up video type stuff, because we don't have to. That we can have tooltips in the world that look sci-fi, that look embedded in the world, look like something that's meant to be there, but actually be informative to you. But yeah, that's really tough, especially since we've created so much jargon. I mean, we've spent so much time developing the story of this game that sometimes I think we lose track of, how much we've done and how much we have to explain to the player.
It's also important to remember that where you're starting right now is not where you'll be starting when we're done with our current content. Right? We're planning on. We talked about this earlier. Having a new user experience that is really meant to integrate you into what is the technology of Firefall. Why do I give a shit about it, and how can I use this to destroy my enemies? But bringing up those concepts and layering them in a fashion that players can get comfortable with one before you add the second one is something that we don't do yet. We throw you in and like, bam, learn the world, go.
Right, and there's just so much that I was wondering how do we have any plans for that initial arc? I mean, it is a tough problem, right? It's just, but I'll be very interested to see as you guys wrestle that one down.
One thing is that, it occurs to me that a lot of this stuff, it might be a high-tech term, but in a lot of cases, we're using it in a way that people could still understand if they see what we're talking about. So I think a lot of science fiction films, for example, use the jargon. They don't worry about explaining it to the viewer, but they're showing you a scene that you understand. Oh, they're using a computer, but they're calling it a Flamuxaberg, right? And you just understand that, okay, these are Flamuxabergs. Like in Battlestar Galactica, when they talk about what's their distance measurement, it's like, it's not kilometers, it's something else, and but you understand they're talking about distance. Yep. I think we've got to really be good at searching for those opportunities to hang the term off of something, but if in the case of a really unique term, we're going to have to work harder.
Well, and there's a lot, I think there's a lot of places in the world as well, right? Like we were talking about all this equipment. Clearly the equipment is one of the things that the player interacts with the most, right? I know the name of my gear. I start to understand those corporations. That's why I was wondering if we could go visit or interact with those corporations, because those are going to be one of the first things that I become familiar with as I look at them through the leveling tree. And I think there's a lot of other places in the world where we have places where we can integrate that without it just being jargon in a piece of narrative text. But there's a question which has been sort of bothering me since I first booted up the beta, which is really this question of theme, right? We talked a little bit just a few minutes ago about what the theme of Firefall is, and yet I fired up, right, and the first thing I hear from my character is everything from the voice stabs are everything from a 70s blaxploitation kill that bitch ass, right? To that's verbatim, right? That is what it says.
Is that verbatim?
Yep. That is the amount of times you get to hear bitch ass is amazing. To things like you got the country yokel who goes just like shooting possum, to the female player who insults her names and calling them nerds, right? Mm-hmm. These things seem to be of a different tenor to me than a lot of the actual narrative text I saw in the game, right? And I understand they seem much more Saints Row the Third than what I thought of as Firefall. Mm-hmm. And so to me, you're going for a difficult thing. You're trying to mesh an apocalypse which isn't negative, right? You're trying to build a world where there's still joy. We've got this vibrant palette. We're trying to juxtapose this sort of calamitous event that's happening with, but yet there are some really serious moments. And for me, it was really hard to engage in those serious moments because the emotive-scape that had been set for me by my character continuously shouting at these voice stabs or doing other goofy things was not the same as.
We're not speaking with a single voice yet, and because of the realities of production, we had to get lines in right away, and so sometimes we don't know who's writing these lines, and we're just trying to just get them in so that you can get some auditory feedback on, yes, I hit my target, or yes, it's time, I'm reloading now.
I think some games have succeeded in doing both, and I would suggest that the Left 4 Dead series has done a good job of having lines that are, in my opinion, often fun and of the same sort of flavor, and they're in a very serious, situation.
I think comedy is important, in a game. I don't think if we were serious the whole time, I think it would be very taxing,
And I think levity is key, right? But and it's a really hard thing to even talk about because there's that which you can match with gravity, right? I think Fallout series does a pretty good job of being both humorous and yet at times poignantly serious, right? Mm-hmm. And I feel like there's some moments in the Firefall narrative, especially moments with Nostromo, that were supposed to have that resonance with me, which sort of missed because the character isn't I experienced things that weren't necessarily humorous as much as goofy, right? And I think there's a big difference there. And so I was just seeing if what your thoughts were on how we're going to mesh this complicated world that you've got in this complicated setting, and how we're going to make my character really feel like they're a part of this world rather than a toy in this world.
Well, one of the things is we are revisiting those lines. Like I was talking to Boone, our sound designer, about the real. It's a fine line because these teams are supposed to be somewhat irreverent, right? They're not military.
Right.
They have sort of like. In the old days they call them charters, right? Or what do they call it? So you can go pirate other ships and things like this. They're basically
letters of marque.
Yeah, they're given weapons, they're given guns. They say, go fight the Chosen, go help us out, go help humanity. And when we have missions for you, we'll call on you. Other times you're on your own. Go make your living and survive on your own. So they're supposed to be more like that Top Gun feel, where it's a lot of the, Nostromo has really kind of enraptured a lot of the youth to sort of like have them rise up and fight against the Chosen. And so he's tapped into, kind of like the most elite battle frame operators out there and sort of tapped into them to help fight his war. So some of that is definitely their vibe, right? But I think we need to do a better job of, pointing out who they are and why they speak that way and how that relates to the Accord. You don't hear the Accord right now at all. Nostromo has no spoken lines in the game yet, right? And unless we put the billboard in.
Doesn't Nostromo have a quest where you're dealing with the squid head
he
guy?
does. He does. Right. He has one quest. But TransHub is where you first see the Accord. But we could do a lot more of that in Copa. But we haven't touched Copa in a while. We went to TransHub, did that, and then we're planning to come back to Copa to give the Accord a presence there and in the starting area as well. The Accord are meant to feel like this sort of like almost like an occupying force. It's like, yes, we're glad they're here, but we're also, not that happy that they're taking our water and doing this. Sometimes we're at odds with each other. And so we deliberately cast them as American accents and British accents, right? Because we wanted that sort of feeling. And then for the other ones, we try to be about 30% Brazilian, and the rest is kind of a melting pot because Brazil became this hotbed where it was a gold rush for Christite. So yeah, I think right now you're thrown into your character. Why the heck do I talk this way when the cinematic I just saw had this very serious overtone to it? And it's like, well, I think what's missing is who am I as the character? You're part of an Ares team. What is an Ares team? And we have to do a much better job of explaining that.
And we probably would all agree that the best persistent worlds that we've enjoyed have had a mix of everything, of seriousness and of the funny, and that it's our job to make sure that we shift the theme appropriately enough at the moment of seriousness that you feel those moments fully.
Yeah. Well, and the thing to remember here is that what you're hearing is what the player is choosing for their voice, right? This is something that I get to set on my character when I'm creating the character, so it's really giving the player a voice that matches how they want to be heard.
So it's interesting because that set is very limited right now, right? And clearly it's going to be limited, but the entire range to me was, to be totally frank, some form of stereotype, right? Yes. And again, it's an area where I feel like we can do better, right? And not only because we should get rid of the stereotypes, but because in meshing it with the overall tone, I think there's even better ways that we can characterize the characters, right? Like
I agree with that critique. I think that the characters could fit a lot more in the universe, be less stereotypical, and match the tone better. That's something that I've wanted to revisit for a while.
I know we've got to go to I have a million other storyline questions, but I know we got to go to the Tiki Room real soon. But I ran a contest for any extra credits listeners out there on our site. You guys actually took down our site trying to get to this contest, where we're giving away some beta keys to ask questions, right? So they had a couple of questions for you, which I figured I'll pitch at you in our last few minutes. Okay, so Captain Red Hook wants to know that...
I was like, that's not a character in our game, is it? Because I don't remember Captain Red Hook.
I think it's part of the Pirates.
You'll have to just show me that element at some point. But so, is that a big reveal?
No, the ninjas are.
Oh my! All right, so he wants to know, basically, in a lot of MMOs, especially the really successful ones, they expand into our pop culture lexicon well beyond just being a game. And so how are you guys going to reach past simply the things I get to do on the screen and move into other media or other ways of reaching your audience?
We're doing a lot of stuff already. In fact, we launched a whole manga series that we conveniently have preloaded on this computer. Would you like to see it?
Well, all right then.
You know how to do this?
Alt-Tab. And so one way is like, how do we acclimate players to the story? And I said, listen, with a new IP, it's really challenging. It's like, so I wanted to give them something they could read even before the series came out. The game came out, that give them sort of that background. So we actually worked with Emily Janice Card and her father, Orson Scott Card, to sort of pen the sort of like events leading up to the melding and what happens immediately afterwards. So you're opening episode 1, which is Chinese only. Yeah, on
should
this
I be
computer.
opening?
Episode 2. And I think, what episode are we up to, Tim? Is it 5? Or? And like I said, we just got to the point where you learned about affinites existing in the world, you learned about sin, you learned about some of the jargon we were talking about. And yeah, we think that this kind of fits our art style too. So it was a really good way to get some of that out there. The other thing that's really interesting us is using video. We came from a world where, back in the day, we'd show screenshot of the week, right? And they'd be hammering on us, you gotta have a new screenshot every week or the community's gonna lose interest. And, well, you can't do that anymore. A screenshot is not gonna impress anyone per week. And we were noticing that we were getting a lot of feedback from our video work. And so one thing that we're exploring, and one reason why we've built out Stage 5, is that we can do more game trailers about the game to communicate features about it, but also we're interested in doing some, well, I guess I'm going to reveal this, a little bit of live action, a little bit, just a skosh. But it's really not meant to be a web series or anything complicated like that. These are going to be more like portraits of different characters, and but in live action, and we'll be revealing those on Stage 5 over the coming months.
I'm imagining Wing Commander FMV scenes are going to just insert.
Oh, no.
That key delivery method for narrative.
Oh, my God. No, well, one thing is that, we've come a long way. I think back when we were trying FMV in games, if you guys remember these horrible Laserdisc games or Sega, what was it? The Sega...
Like Sega CD and then...
Sega CD, Night Trap.
Hell yeah.
I mean, you had these horrible green screen compositing because the technology just wasn't there yet. But what we found today is that movie quality cameras, the same one that like James Cameron is shooting with, you can buy as a consumer today. And all the compositing software and the special effects stuff lives on your desktop. And so many independent filmmakers are doing brilliant stuff with this of such higher quality that we think, okay, maybe it's now ready that we can integrate some of this, at least, like I said, from a transmedia perspective to sort of tell aspects of the game.
Well, that's actually great. It gets me to my last user question, then we got to pop over. But and I agree with you. It's going to be a revolution. We're getting all this high-end equipment. Now that you can really make a professional movie, getting it in the hands of people, it's like going to be like the indie revolution for games. But I had Amy Pendant asks, so are there any plans to allow me to engage with the game? How am I going to engage with the game outside of being on my screen? Not in terms of other media, but you mentioned transmedia right there. She apparently wants to know, how do I play when I'm not at my computer?
So outside-in gaming is something that we spent a lot of time thinking about. Having
what do we call it again?
Outside-in gaming.
Outside-in gaming.
Right. It's your ability to interface with the Firefall experience using some other method of input. Your smartphones or your laptop or whatever. Not your laptop, but your iPads, because when you want to play on the toilet, you need your iPad handy, right? We want to be able to take these devices and have meaningful ways that users can either input data into the game or get data out. I'll give up an old school idea. So back when we were looking for publishers, we actually had some of this functioning. And we had the ability for players in-game to request Army-based technology that was derived from whether or not you had the rank to request that technology. And the technology that we had was this thing called an orbital strike, where from a satellite it would come down, create a raft of damage wherever you chose to call it down. But if you weren't of the appropriate rank, you had to ask for that permission. Well, Firefall is smart enough to go, oh, well, there's nobody online who has that rank. I'm going to use this other method to ask for permission for somebody else. So what we did for our demo, and it was pretty awesome to do this, is we sat the guys around the table and we talked about this, and then we put the iPhone in front of them, and then we had live guys playing the game, and they're like, oh, come on, Orbital Strike, get on the point, and they called out for a request, and the phone starts ringing. You're like, what the hell is that? I don't know, why don't you pick it up? And so you pick it up and you look at it, and there's a picture of the scene, and there's a button.
An actual screenshot from the game.
Live from the game, and a button, and you get to push it. And you push the button, and then it nukes the crap out of all those sorry suckers that were on the port, on the point, and then you get a screenshot showing you of the damage that you just caused, right? And that's awesome. And that's just one example of how we're looking at taking these devices and being able to re-engage the experience in meaningful ways.
All right, so we got to jump to the Tiki Lounge. Giveaways, the last of the things we got to give away. Do we have any time after to come back and talk about?
We do.
All right, great. I would love to talk with you guys about player-driven narrative after that. All right.
All right.
So,
Welcome back, guys.
Yeah. It's my favorite time of day.
What's that? The end of the day?
The end of the day. No. What? No, not that. Giving away the AMD PC.
That's right.
That's right.
Is this the final AMD PC?
You know what?
It's the last one ever.
This is the final AMD PC.
AMD is not making PCs anymore?
It's okay. It's not
Yeah,
the
well,
last
no,
one.
they're
It's the
still
last one we
making
have.
Last one we have.
They're thriving, but we only have 5. So today is the last day, and we asked you earlier to go to our Facebook page, facebook.com/Firefall, and go to the link for extra credits, so that way we could pick a like for that post. And I know I took off my glasses. This is so serious, I took off my glasses.
Serious face.
I almost knocked him over. Sorry.
Serious face. No smiles. This is serious business.
Serious. That's terrible.
That was horrible. What is
That's
the
terrible. It was
what is
just
the hand
terrible.
movement there? What were you trying to do?
He's like
I'm trying
Christina
to, like,
Aguilera. He's like a genie in a bottle. He's like, I'm up.
You're totally smiling.
So are you.
You look like you're trying to hold back a fart. That's what you look like. I look like I'm about to tear a heart out of a buffalo.
Well, that's because you guys kept complaining the last 4 days.
The way I want to pick this, in order to make it as random as possible for all the people that like the page or like the post, I'm just going to scroll with my keyboard here.
Right.
And you are going to close your eyes.
Well, you know what? Really, I'm so blind right now, I won't even need to.
And you call out stop, and then when you stop, open your eyes and pick one person.
All right.
Okay.
Sounds good. So ready.
I'll just make sure this is all legit.
Close your eyes.
On the up and up.
All right.
Okay.
Eyes are closed. I'm looking away.
And then you call out stop whenever you want.
And stop.
Got it.
Joshua Salzito. Joshua Salzito.
I'm gonna have to.
Nope.
No.
Joshua Salzito cannot win.
No. Sorry, I know you don't know who Joshua Salzito is.
I don't know who Joshua.
He might be related to a person that works at Red 5 named Daniel Salzito.
Are you sure?
Dan.
You sure it's that Joshua?
I'll double check.
I'm just
but
saying
I'm pretty sure.
Joshua or Salzito is a very popular name in the Hispanic Latin culture. I know that because I am Hispanic Latin.
We're verifying. We're trying to verify Josh.
Joshua Salzito. We're checking.
Yeah, he lives in Mission Viejo, so I'm gonna say yes.
So yeah, sorry, Joshua, you were this close to getting such a sweet PC.
Okay, let's try.
Okay, let's
try that again. Let's try that again.
Can
Cheaters.
we just take a moment? That sucks so bad for him. He's like, I hate my brother.
He's probably running around like, Dad, they picked me. Yeah. No, sorry.
Sorry, bro.
Okay.
All right, let's do this again. It's so random.
It is.
That is so random. Okay, ready?
You might want to meet our coworkers.
3. There's so many people that work at Red 5. And go. All right, Steve Mattia.
There you go. I do not know Steve Mattia.
Steve Mattia.
Steve Mattia.
Woo! Yeah, getting the sweat rag swirl.
Steve Mattia, you win an AMD PC.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and try to message you on Facebook, but also send an email to community@red5studios.com to let us know what's going to go on just so we can make sure we communicate. But congratulations on a brand new AMD PC.
Yes.
I also want to call out some of our sponsors. So thank you to AMD for all the computers you guys provided.
Great.
Really awesome to have those. Razer for providing all the keyboards, mice, and mouse pads.
And Lori Turner and John Petrozzi for giving us T-shirts and swag bags.
They don't need to be thanked. No.
Take that back.
Thank you.
Now.
Yeah. So they don't need to be thanked. But also, I want to give a big thank you to New Tech, who provided our TriCaster so that we can actually broadcast this whole thing. So thank you very much for that. Don't forget, guys, we've got more things to give away on Saturday with Nathan Fillion and Allison Hayslip. We've got 3 Razer Blade laptops plus some other random things to give away. So pretty awesome stuff.
It's going to be a good day.
So congratulations to Steve Mattia. We will be back tomorrow, 3 p.m. Have a great day. And now we're going to go back to some videos.
See you later. That's right. Woo!
Firefall takes place in a future Earth. It's a technologically advanced Earth somewhere between Star Trek and Star Wars. It really is a world powered by a new energy source called crystite, which came from a meteor storm that devastated the Earth, nearly wiped it out. And they call this event Firefall. It's where the name of the game comes from. Well, Earth thrived. This time, it's all clean energy, and they're using crystite in lots of new and novel ways to power a lot of advanced technology in the world. Everything's great until mankind decides to try their first faster-than-light jump through space, aboard a ship called the Arclight. When the Arclight attempts to activate its drives, all hell breaks loose, and the ship crashes to Earth, leaving behind a rent in space and time where the melding, an energy storm of dangerous nature, pours through, covering the entire planet. This storm devastates everything. It disintegrates whatever it touches and makes land uninhabitable. It's only around the remains of the still running Arclight off the beach of Brazil, Fortaleza, Brazil, that a little bubble has formed of space-time that allows humanity one last chance to rebuild. And this is where the player starts off. We have Admiral Nostromo, who was aboard the Arclight when it crashed, who now becomes consul of the entire Brazil territory. And he's basically trying to help humanity rebuild and at the same time repel an alien invasion from beings called the Chosen, which come out of this energy storm and begin attacking humanity. So he's got a tough job. Next to him, he also has his sort of right-hand guy, Typhon, who's part of the Hellhounds, and Morningstar, who's Typhon's lieutenant. And they're kind of like Nostromo's go-to team for important missions in the game, and they have an important story arc through the entire game, which the players get to be a part of. There's a campaign mission that will be in the game that unfolds over a 5-year arc. We have a serious investment in the story here, and you get to witness it as it happens. So as Typhon and Morningstar and Nostromo and the other key characters go through this epic story arc, you're part of that history. You're helping change the world. And we've divided up into several episodes, and we're going to be unveiling episode 1 here pretty soon, probably early after our first PvE milestone. The story is important to me for a number of reasons. I think I've always been fascinated with characters that have had sort of a dual nature, and Nostromo is definitely one of those characters. He saves Fortaleza, Brazil, but in doing so, he ends up wiping out his family, who dies in the crash of the Arclight. And it's kind of that Sophie's Choice decision that drives him down this path where he's really vengeful against the Chosen. He wants to blame them for everything that happens. He wants to kick them off the planet. He wants to push back the melding, retake everything. Meanwhile, humanity, has another option. There's a starship that's arriving in 4 years that could rescue them from the only other colony that humanity's ever colonized, which is Alpha Prime. So Nostromo has a choice. Does he circle the wagons and try to stick it out until the Aegis arrives? Or does he take the war to the Chosen, which is really what he seems hell-bent on doing? And how far is he willing to take that war, and at what cost? I think these are the interesting questions, along with who are the Chosen really, and what do they want? I like dangling mysteries, big J.J. Abrams fan, so I like to keep fans guessing, and there'll be a lot of mysteries to unravel in Firefall.
All right, so the last thing I want to get to is this idea of the player leaving their mark on the world. I think that this is something that we never see in MMOs, and yet is really meaningful, gives ownership to the player for this space that they're going to spend a lot of their lives in, right? So tell me about this, because when you were first telling me about this dynamic storyline, that was really the thing that gripped me. So just...
So, as we were talking about during the break, I think we're at this point where what we want to do and where we want to go and what we're doing now is actually, virgin territory. It's kind of pushing the envelope, but at the same time, the tools that we have to do it with are very primitive, right? So on one hand, I can say, yes, you can impact the story, and in one person's mind it means one thing, in another person's mind it means something else. Taj Mahal or college or country cottage, right? And so for us, there are a couple things we're doing. One is that the story unfolds in your space, right? I know earlier you talked about, or in the video you talked about time around the player and how we want the story to unfold in player time as you experience these sequence of events. And we're also going to tie these events so that they're not statically placed in the world, that you actually will have a subtext to say when the Chosen invade Copacabana. Normally they might invade Copacabana, and if you're not at that point in the story, that's all you see. You help defend it, you get rewards, that's great. But you could be at that point in the story where now they're invading Copacabana, but you're at the point in the story where you have a special mission that you have to extract some piece of intelligence from, or perhaps try to capture one of the Chosen during this sequence. And then you will have a whole side mission that happens when that event occurs, but you have to wait until that point in time in which the event occurs. So that's one way in which we're making the story mode dynamic. The other way is in collective choice, right? Both collective and individual choice. Collective choices are things like pushing back the melding. We have melding that covers most of the planet, and players can collectively come together to build melding repulsors to unveil sections of the world. One thing you can do is give them a choice about which section of the world they unveil, and that can advance the story or give you a different part of the story that you wouldn't otherwise see. And then I think, the final way that we're playing with is in the campaign, we break it into episodes, right? And so we have these short story arcs. We know generally where we want to take the story arc, but we want to have player participation in that. An example in one of your videos is Legend of the Five Rings, where, and Dave Williams, the lead designer of that collectible card game, is actually a designer on our team, and he told us the story about how during a tournament the faction started to role play and actually affected, depending on who won the tournament, affected the story of the next expansion that they would release and the cards that they would release subsequently. We would like to get that aspect into it, and I can't go too far into that without talking about the story arc, but that is one thing that we could definitely do, and I think it's going to be a very actually poignant moment in the story.
So, besides just the melding itself, besides just pushing back the melding, how do the players make these sort of aggregate choices? Without talking about the story, just like a generalized, what sort of actions do I take? How do I get to participate in the narrative of this world and how this world is going to change over time?
Again, like I said, it's actually. It's not as sophisticated as I'd like it to be, right? So what we're doing is very similar to some other MMOs have done group activities where you have to collect enough elements to unlock a gate, for example, right? For us, it would be collecting enough of these resources to build large melding repulsors, and then deploying them into the world and actually pushing back the melding.
Is there going to be any player choice in that though? Like, is it just the WoW Encourage War event, right? Sooner or later, you were going to get enough stuff and the gates were going to open. Is it going to be sooner or later you're going to get enough stuff and we're going to push back the smelling? Or is there going to be any player faction or player option where they're like, oh, I don't think that's a good idea. I don't think we should open this area of melding. I'm going to try and stop this. Because I know you guys have a vibrant PvP.
Yep. But we don't have open world PvP
yet.
So, like I said, I think that we would like there to be more flexibility there in terms of, not in terms of disagreeing over where to put the repulsor, but in terms of, voting in a positive way which section to open up next. When we get open world PvP, that I think would be a much more powerful opportunity to do that. Again, I'm really hesitating here because I don't want to overpromise what we're going to do with the story. Like I said, our first tentative steps are going to be making the story unfold in player time in a dynamic fashion rather than going hub A to B, and then the outcome of that story changing depending on the choices that collectively players have made.
From a development side, how are you going to deal with the added expense, right? Like clearly having to adjust to these branches that the players choose is either going to be something we have to do very rapidly, or something that we're going to have to do before the players even make those choices, and having sort of a framework in place.
I think that depends on how long it takes them to make the choice, and what the frequency of that choice is. Depending, if we can ramp out that choice, stall with style. I mean, like that choice could be it's not you're choosing which wall to throw your meat at, right? It's about there are different things that you can engage in.
I'm still cranking on that metaphor, actually.
Well, feeding needs. Never mind. But the thing is, maybe there's different ways that you can go and choose to engage an experience here or there, and that choice has long-term ramifications for what unfolds next. Without saying too much.
Staying one step ahead is really, really hard. And so what you try to do, it's a little bit of a smoke and mirrors game. You create a second arc, and we're getting technical now. You create a second arc where 90% of it can be reused, right? And then the 10% of it that's on top of it, or it's the initial event or things like that, it's kind of, didn't another game do this? Kind of like fake you out on 2 storylines? Was that StarCraft 2 or something like that? Where you thought you had a choice but you didn't?
There are many such, right? Like even all the Mass Effects, if you actually go through those branches, they're not really branches, right?
So that's one way that game designers are giving you that feeling of choice, but they're reusing a lot of content. They're just recasting it in a different way.
I'll be interested to see what do you do about the danger of the fact that MMO players being ardent players may blaze through your content, and as soon as they're aware that this is an option, throw themselves into pushing that option as quickly as possible.
Oh, that'll never happen.
Never, of course not. MMO players never do anything we don't anticipate.
And if they are going too fast, we'll simply ask them to slow down.
There you
and they'll
go.
slow down.
You put a post on the forums.
Yes.
And that always works.
And
Great.
That'll
Solved.
Totally,
Please stop.
We got it.
Oh wait, what?
Well, like I said, I think it really is stalling with style, right? We have to find ways to stall you and keep you entertained while we're stalling you, so that we can build all of it. That's just reality.
Right.
We're not going to get away from that. So for us, it's really about building these dynamic events. It's like I'm really happy with the fact that in the time that it takes us to make 5 static quests in the world, players will blaze through that in about an hour. But if we take that same amount of time and make a dynamic event, that can last a week or 2 weeks.
And I would love to dig in more to these dynamic events, but I know that there was some Halloween content which we were really excited about, and I know we're almost out of time, so I would love to see what you guys are going to have up for us in the next couple of days.
All right, so we've been hard at work.
Just don't combine that with the meat comment, you're fine.
Okay. I'm not going there. Hard at work on the new patch, which we will be releasing very soon, TM. And just to give you an idea of kind of how we're planning on monetizing the game, none of these Halloween items actually provide power, but they do provide cool factor.
And none of them are free.
None of them are free. And these are all available to you at the new U. And so you can go up any one of these devices you happen to find it, your neighborhood POI. Our current items are, I think, head-only items, so we'll go ahead and cycle through what some of these are. They're all in the head ornaments. This is the new U for any of you who haven't seen it. This is how you can modify your aesthetics on your character, ranging from head all the way hair, eyes. All right, so let's go ahead and this is like one of the most serious items that we have. The kitty ears.
I really sense Nostromo's dilemma in the cat ears.
Yeah.
It's really highlighting
this also speaks to one of our corporate values, which is
cat ears.
Listen harder. If you don't listen harder, and sometimes people can come up with a term that is very negative, but this hat actually goes with that.
I like the Jason mask.
Oh, this one's good too.
That?
Yeah.
Can we combo that with the kitty ears?
What was that? No, these don't actually combo, but I think that would be pretty awesome Halloween mask kitty ear killer. Yeah. We need a patch for that. In addition to the Halloween mask, we also have other Halloween types of items.
I want that.
Seems pretty cool. If you want to be the stone cold killer, this one's pretty awesome as well. But my personal favorite, because it's the creepiest.
Oh, Scarecrow.
Hell yeah. Who wouldn't want to kill somebody wearing that? These are all available in the new U, so when the patch goes live soon, TM, feel free to go to the new U and pick your favorite items and scare your friends with it.
This is the first time I see them, and I love them already. So, Awesome.
All right.
Thank you.
And that's some of our new Halloween items.
All right, awesome. Thank you guys for just having me here. This has been a blast talking with you guys. I know we're out of time, but I appreciate the fact that you guys have let me come in here and ask all sorts of questions, which are a lot tougher and a lot rougher than a lot of places that I've gone to and gotten to talk on camera. So thank you for answering those. And I mean,
we made the makeup artists, have to run out here a lot because they're all sweating.
It's good. It's good. Next time around, I will come with more personal questions.
Personal questions.
Yeah, personal questions, yeah.
Hey now.
Especially for you, sir.
I'll make up answers. I mean, I'll tell you the truth.
Right. But no, it's been great being here. It looks great. I'm excited for the new patch. And is there anything that you guys want to get out there before we wrap it up and call it a day for Firefall Fest?
I just want to say thank you for helping us, do the videos to explain some of the tougher points of Firefall. And I think they've been doing great. We've been running them all week through Firefall Fest to help people understand what the game is about. And I love the fact that you're very frank in them. And that's what we wanted. We wanted, warts and all. This is a collaborative effort with the community to say, here's what we got. Please tell us what's working for you and what isn't. And your videos definitely help to make that connection.
They're awesome.
It's been great. Our community has been loving a lot of the ways you guys are trying to push the boundaries of design. So it's been fantastic.
Awesome.
Thank you.
All right. Well, that wraps it for Firefall Fest today. Join us tomorrow, where we have Nathan Fillion.
Yeah.
Thank you.